Happy Whiskey Wednesday, everyone, and welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, episode 101. We are happy to have a couple of guests in the garage, and looks like we have live video. Perfect. We've got, turn down your volume. You've been here before. Act like you've been here before. AJ Kazmierzak, everyone, with his volume on, with Amateur Hour here. And then we also have a new guest, Caleb Mosley, which we will call him Mosley because he says all of his friends call him that, so you guys are all now friends with him. Welcome.
All two of his friends.
All two of them. They might be watching.
I don't know. I counted two here.
Counted two here. Perfect. But I want to thank you guys for being here tonight. We're going to be going over to our sponsorships, what we're smoking and drinking. Let us know what you guys are smoking and drinking as well. Please share, like, review, share this as it's going on, as we will as well. And that way we can kind of join the conversation. We've got Nate Hale behind the producer mic here tonight, and Dustin Bovey on the feed. We've got Kyle Smith doing the photography. Kyle B. Smith Photography. Kyle B. Smith Photo. He keeps changing his name on me, so I don't know what his Instagram handle is, but it's Kyle B. Smith Photo. He doesn't know either. That's right. So follow him. Check out his other photography as well, and stay tuned. So, Nate, if you want to go ahead and go over our sponsorships for the Facebook Live, and then we'll get started with the actual episode while I share the video here.
So, our first sponsor this evening is Tinderbox at Easton Town Center, Columbus, Ohio. They are providing the La Aroma de Cuba Amor Reserva. Our second cigar this evening is the Romeo and Julieta Reserve Real, and that is being provided to us by our second sponsor, Altadis USA. So Romeo and Julieta, Monte Cristo, H. Upman, Onyx, Butera, Aging Room, slew of others. Also like to thank the BS Cigar Company. Got a few silvers floating around, still waiting for the golds to come back in. Just every day is another day closer. And then also don't forget the Patreon page, Patreon/Bourbon and BS podcast. And then don't forget to like, share, leave us a review. If you want to help us out with any of the production, that's where the Patreon comes in. Or like tonight, our whiskey that is being reviewed tonight is provided to us by Jody Jacks, one of our community page members and listeners of the podcast. So we'd like to thank her for donating the TX blended whiskey for this evening. So if you're listening right now live, go ahead and tell us what you are drinking, what you're smoking tonight. Hopefully you're not in a car and drinking. Smoking's fine.
It's fine.
Hopefully you're not doing it. So AJ, how's your week going?
Week's not going too bad. Well, days are still, we're still playing catch up from the holidays, so days are still kind of running together. I think today's Wednesday. I hope it's Wednesday because that would make sense because we're doing, we're doing the podcast today. Same thing as usual. Still got the coffee stuff going on. The shop, Joy House Coffee down in Circleville that we helped get going. I actually just visited them today. They're slowly drawing more and more of a crowd, which is really, really nice. We're actually doing a custom roast for them. And so anytime you go in there and get a drip coffee, that is actually by Jennings Java, but you can only get it there. So really, really cool, something that I like. Exclusivity is fun.
I have to also let you know that the one you do for the Blue Jackets fan club, that's really good coffee. That is really good coffee.
So that is, we collaborated with the Columbus Blue Jackets Artillery on that. Really, really great group of people over there. And we did it's called, like I said, Cannon Powder. All of it is roasted to order, so super, super fresh. We tried to find something that was as smooth as a power play with a little smoke on the end to kind of signify the cannon going off. So really like that. And then, of course, I'm a big fan of the marketing.
Clearly. Clearly. Can I see that bottle? Are you done?
Absolutely. Let's.
I feel like you were reading that off a pamphlet.
No, not at all.
Package.
Not at all. Not at all. Just, hey, it's easy to talk about stuff you're passionate about.
That's
you should
true.
know that.
Yeah.
Mosley,
That's right.
How's your week been, bub?
It's been good. Yeah.
What's been going on, and what do you do? Tell the people what you do.
I'm a strength and conditioning coach. First and foremost, that's my day job. Out of the high school, and we're kind of rolling right into the thick of winter here. A lot of my sports are kind of finishing up their in-season stuff. A lot are kind of gearing down to get into their spring stuff, and then my kind of middle of the pack people, like my football team, they're gearing up to start their heaviest part of their training cycle.
Okay,
so that's kind of
what we're going to be talking about tonight. Is a little bit towards you, but for those of you that are going to be tuning in for part 2 as well. So if you guys haven't joined us before, part 1 is basically the whiskey and the cigars, a little bit of a review. First hour, getting into it, depending on how it goes. It's kind of like no real frame as far as time frame there. But the second part's going to be called the topic, consistency is key. And a lot of that's going to be kind of, I guess the scope is going to be with what Mosley does, and AJ's involved, and he did sports and everything like that. But really it's about that we're a week into the new year, and a lot of New Year's resolutions are typically going to be fitness-related, nutrition, getting in shape and all that stuff. Right. So that's why I love having you on, is because we're going to be able to kind of talk about what goes into doing that beyond just the first few days, that January, February gym member, right. Getting control of your life in that regard. So we'll get into that in the second part. But let's get started. If you want Nate to get into it, and guys, join the conversation. Go ahead, Nate. Happy Whiskey Wednesday, everyone, and welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, episode 101.1, part 1. We've got AJ Kazmierzak here next to me, and also a new guest, Caleb Mosley. And we just started our Facebook page live episode, so if you guys are available on Wednesday nights, we typically do it around 7:30. Join us, be a part of the conversation. If you're not available, you can always watch us on YouTube when it's updated or posted later, and then also on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Luminary. There's a dozen others. There's a lot. Overcast, yeah, absolutely. So check us out on those if you're not already listening to it currently. You can share it to anyone you think might be interested as well in all of those outlets. So welcome back. Like I said, I wanted to go over some of the sponsorships here real quickly. We want to thank Tinderbox at Easton. They provided us with the weekly featured cigar, and tonight we're going to be smoking the La Aroma de Cuba, Mi Amor Reserva. I want to thank Altadis USA, makers of like Monte Cristo, Romeo Julieta, Upman, Butera, dozens of Trinidad, a lot of other portfolio brands as well. They give us the weekly second cigar, which is going to be the Romeo Julieta Reserva Real, which is a great mild one. We'll be smoking that in part 2. And then also BS Cigar Company, which I've got 2 silvers in front of me. We are running dangerously low on the silvers here in Columbus, Ohio, at Tinderbox at Easton. If you guys are interested, make sure you stop by and grab them. We have another shipment. Hector from Espinosa Cigars is trying to find out exactly when that container's coming in. So hopefully soon. And then also the golds will be back in March. Tentatively, we're hoping that it will. So that's the status on those. If you guys are interested, always contact either Tinderbox at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. Contact me, contact the podcast, and we can get some out to you if you guys are looking to try something new. The silver's made by Espinosa Cigars, and the gold will be through Plasencia Tobacco going forward. So stay tuned for that. I'm excited to smoke that here soon. We're going to be drinking tonight TX Blended Whiskey. AJ, who's that by?
So that is actually by...
What's the distiller's name?
Firestone and Robertson Distilling Company.
Based out of Texas, I assume.
Based out of Texas,
okay.
Yes.
This was a gift, and this is kind of what I wanted to bring up here, the fourth sponsor, which is all of you guys. So we have a Patreon page called Patreon. It's patreon.com/Bourbon and BS Podcast. You can contribute to the podcast, help us out with a monthly monetary value. Any monetary value, honestly. The default right now is $5 per month, and then you can plug in anything else, less or more. We had a guy that I really appreciate. We've got a handful right now, but one that I just got an email this morning. Nick Fox had started donating or contributing $5 a month. I got an email that he actually upped it this morning to $10 a month. So you can actually change it any time. We're going to be doing tiers. I had a nice phone call with someone doing whiskey glasses, kind of like this Tri-State Bourbon Aficionado glass. So I'm working on getting some podcast glasses like that. I'm looking at T-shirts, things like that would be swag to thank people for helping out. So you get something more than just the weekly podcast. But this bottle is also another way you can contribute. This is from Jody Jacks, who's a loyal listener. She was down in Texas, and she brought this bottle. She's very frightened to hear what we have to say about it because we are going in. I'm going in at least raw. You guys had a couple sips, or some people have already sipped it. So I've tried to close my ears, earmuff it. But I'm interested to try this TX blended whiskey.
So we've just got to be extra crucial on it because she's worried.
As harsh as possible.
All right,
yes.
we can do that. I'm a very harsh person. You know this.
Clearly. All right, Nate. Did I forget anything? 15% off. So Tinderbox at Easton, because they are a sponsor, they provided this cigar. Part of the deal is you guys actually benefit. So if you are in the Columbus area, if you're stopping by, you can get a La Aroma de Cuba Mi Amor Reserva in any size that we have for 15% off. If you guys are not local and you're looking for 15% off, we do a minimum of a 5 cigar order, and you can get 15% off between now and basically next podcast. So between now and the end of business on Tuesday, you call in Wednesday morning or contact me. We'll get it worked out. So that's a great deal. Thank you, Nate. All right, let's dive into the whiskey here. TX blended whiskey. I'm going to take my first sip. AJ, you've kind of looked into this distillery and the product here. So what do we have?
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. So I'll just kind of give you the quick rundown. They explored numerous American blended whiskeys, felt they lacked complexity and character. It lacked the complexity and character of many of the highly regarded and award-winning Scottish, Irish, and Canadian whiskey blends.
What are you reading?
I'm from these
them.
guys. All right, fine.
Okay.
I'll make it even shorter.
No.
They finally settled on a perfect recipe. What they say, an extraordinarily complex spectrum of fragrance and flavor, mixes well or stands alone on the rocks neat. TX blended whiskey is a proprietary masterpiece they're incredibly proud of. It was a tough job, but they say someone had to do it. It is a mix of... I'm looking now.
Water and...
corn.
There it is.
It has actually won. It did.
Yeah.
It did win. It was voted best American craft whiskey. Let's see here. It actually was awarded a double gold award. Here we go. Oh, geez, now I'm going to have to learn more. But so Nate actually noticed. Yeah, so Nate actually noticed this first. But the top of the bottle, where the cork is actually some sort of leather. He said it's ostrich. We're going to find out because it says they have a.
I don't think that's ostrich.
I don't think so either.
The Great Texas Ostrich.
4 elements in each top have to accommodate varying thickness of leather. Oh my goodness!
While you look that up, I want to keep looking that up. I noticed on the bottle, so it's a cool bottle. You got a silver sticker band, but around the bottom of it, big, bold TX blended whiskey. It's 41%, 82 proof. You've got some sort of like a canvas almost or a cloth around it, and then you have that cork with whatever we're figuring out what's on top of that. But it's definitely a unique bottle. And on the back, it lists the 2 names, Leonard Firestone and Troy Robertson. Those are the distillers and proprietors. So, I mean, those are going to be clearly where they get the name of the distillery, which is kind of cool that they have their names behind everything, which I like because that's a lot of times that's going to be in a lot of the whiskeys, a lot of the wine, like the vineyards, a lot of the cigar world. If it's a family business or if people really put their name behind the product, they put it right on the product. Mm-hmm. Which I like. So on the nose, I mean, Caleb, you sipped it yet, or you?
I've taken a couple sips.
Taking a couple sips. I'm struggling to get much of a nose off it. Maybe because it's cold out here, and I'm trying to, and I've got a rocks glass, but I can't really get a whole lot off the nose. I mean, Nate, are you getting anything, or Caleb?
To me, I've first smell, I guess it just kind of, when you get like I'm not like a sweet candy, but almost like a hard candy, like a honey sort of
honey sweetness
smell, if that makes sense.
Like the old school candies that everyone's grandparents used to get.
We've had that conversation
before
about hard candies.
Yeah.
Or like even like
only old people have them.
Yes. You don't know where you buy them from, but
there's a special store.
Yes,
I'm convinced.
Yeah.
Moms have a special store where they get stuff, and grandparents have a special store where they get stuff.
But the grandparents were like those hard candies. They are designed to get through like wars,
right?
Like bomb shelters and things like that. But they can't.
You can nuke the candy.
They can't
and still eat it.
withstand the heat in like a grandpa's pocket. You know what I mean? Like
Gets all
no, you're right.
It
melts.
Melting. Yeah.
Yep. And you got to pick the wrapper off.
Yeah. It's sticky. It's a mess.
But you still eat it.
Yeah.
Every time.
You don't want to insult your grandparents or anyone's grandparents. Go ahead, Caleb. I'm sorry.
No,
that's
what I'm kind of getting from it. Or that's kind of like what my mind immediately went to was like going back to grandma and grandpa's and I got to get in the candy jar as soon as I can. To where that's the first thing I'm grabbing is either the yellow wrapper or whatever I can get away with.
Werther's or
no, more or less the butterscotch. I guess is what I'm.
Yeah. So same ballpark. Not Werther's brand name.
Right. Yeah.
What? AJ,
so
I've learned more about
it.
Yes.
And everyone knows that I love marketing and things with stories. And now, first off, the whiskey's good. But I'm definitely going to buy a bottle now because
you jumping ahead.
I know this, but each bottle actually has different unique leathers, and it's an ode back to the Western aspect of the whiskey. And as much as I hate telling people that they're right, Nate was right, and this is actually ostrich leather on top of this bottle.
Really? Wow. All right.
If you guys can't see that, but Nate has the birds flying high towards
They're both
us.
ostrich birds.
That's a little victory for the week. You know what I mean? It's been a rough week for Nate, and this is a win. I like that. He deserves
but
that.
also in rotation is Leonard's Tony Lama lizard boots. So there are bottles of these out there that actually have lizard leather on top of them. Rob's Distiller boots, which are a pair of Rocky boots that they then cut up and put those on top.
Yeah.
And they actually accept donations. So you can actually donate your worn leather boots. They'll obviously clean them up and stuff like that, but
Hopefully.
it could end up on the top of a TX bottle.
That's very interesting.
That's incredible.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And Jody, if you're out there, I saw you were tuning in briefly. If you could let us know in the feed what this went for. This is I don't know if it's available elsewhere, but I know she got it down in Texas. Okay.
Shocker.
It is not available in Ohio. So that's one of the cool things about it as well, that we got it all the way. We got a bottle recently from Japan. Now we got a bottle from Texas. I mean, we got bottles coming from all over the world, which I love. So
send them in, right?
Send them in. AJ, what do you think about this? Good time to ask you. Dead air is always good.
It's just like the waiter that walks by as soon as you take a bite of food.
How is it?
But no, I think Mosley hit it on the head with the candy aspect. I would actually different flavor, but I would throw this into the category that I classify High West American Prairie, in that I would look at this as an after dinner dessert bourbon. From my standpoint, anyways, it's sweet on the nose.
It's very sweet.
It's very sweet.
Strong vanilla, Dustin. So I agree with that.
It's got that little bit of sting to it, which kind of it's not like
heat?
a harsh. Yeah.
Like we talked about when Sean was on last. It's got a little oomph on the backside of it.
Hit you good.
Absolutely. So do we want to go over tasting notes? Or
let's go over ours first before you look them up.
Gotcha. I've already got them looked up. I'm ready to roll.
I can tell.
All right. So Steve's taking a little sip.
No, it's funny. We talked about a couple different flavors so far and notes. I mean, I actually do get like what Dustin kind of said in the audience. Definitely a vanilla, and I can't get away from some of the things that you guys have talked about. Yeah, and Dustin even wrote so it's butterscotch. I'm getting a lot of those kind of like you say candy. It's extremely light in color almost too. So I would it's at that 82 proof, and so it's not going to be a real hot whiskey. When you say a dessert whiskey, so for me with that, it's kind of like I can see that, but if you just had like a steak dinner, mashed potatoes, asparagus, you had like red wine with the meal, maybe some candlelight.
Cab Sauv or Merlot?
Cab.
Okay, fair.
Cab, definitely cab. Get out of here with that.
Hey, whoa! But what about Malbec, the unsung hero?
Well, you could do that, or you could, whatever you want.
This isn't a wine discussion.
AJ likes box wine, so
box wine. I think that this is something that I would say is enjoyable by itself. It's not going to have the power, the oomph to the point where you're going to be after all of those flavors. I think this would be maybe too light, but I do enjoy it by itself.
You got to remember, not everyone is like you and after a full steak dinner heads straight to the barrel proof.
All right, let me put it in words that you could probably understand.
Small words, please.
So with like if the classic thing, if you're not doing like brandy, you're not doing whiskey, you're not doing something like that for an after dinner, coffee is one that a lot of people will have at after dinner. When we get together at like my mom's or back in the day at my grandmother's, or if you go out to there, like sometimes I will do that after dinner is just get a coffee or maybe put in whiskey in coffee. But it's something that's what I'm thinking, like a black coffee, no cream. That's typically what I do after dinner. So when I hear that, and I think you saw that in one of the descriptions too, that it was a sweeter like after dinner. I think this is like a standalone, very smooth. It's something you could give to someone that's being introduced to whiskey. Yeah, I mean, it's an after dinner dessert in the same way not like a drink typically, but for you, what you're saying there is I'm thinking more of like if you're getting like cake and ice cream for a dessert, it's an actual dessert, not like an after dessert. It's just like this is a dessert type of a flavor. It's very sweet and vanilla and honey, and
that's kind of I kind of went towards vanilla more or less.
Yeah.
So Mosley, you're being too quiet, and it worries me. But so I'm going to ask you this. Let's see how cultured you are.
Okay.
When I drink this, think about the burned sugar? Well, on top of creme brulee, the crust of the creme brulee, the caramelized. Right. Is that what all it is? Is caramelized sugar?
Creme brulee, is what you're talking about.
No, I love creme brulee. I'm talking about what is it that they actually torch on top
to the top of the creme brulee.
Yeah,
and the creme brulee creates its own crust.
Yeah,
with the
and that crust is almost like a candy, basically, because of how sweet it is. That's kind of what I see this as. Is like the crust of the creme brulee.
Okay.
I'm with you on that.
I can see that. I mean, so we're basically all kind of saying the same thing. Jody says I would, and this is the person, Jody Jacks, who donated the bottle.
Thanks, Jody.
I would not have with dinner or for dessert too light. I like it on its own. And I'm kind of with her on that. And it's interesting that look, Eric Evans just asked Jody, which is something that I like about this whole conversation on the live feed, is that they can actually have, everyone out there can talk to each other about this and ask questions. So Eric's asking Jody, would you have it straight or rocks? As for me, I'm going to answer that. I definitely, if I threw rocks in this, it would be like water, and I would, two things, I'd drink it even faster, like it is water, because it is so smooth, you know what I mean? And I would be hammered. Like this bottle would be gone.
See, so this is why everyone needs to tune in for the later portions. Because it gets more interesting.
See, luckily we're sharing it with more people now, so just like sit here between 2 or 3 people.
But
easy.
All right.
You got more whiskey. I know. If you look, the secondary bar, which is my garage shelf.
Well, there's like 100
it's looking a little
there.
bare. Some more donations would be happily accepted.
And Nate's got a liter over there. All right. So you said you would buy it.
So, did we already discuss that Jody said it's like 40-ish shipped?
Online, yes, 40. She got it for 26 down in Texas. So that's where, she had said, she's like, hey, I got you guys a bottle. And it's one of the favorites that I had while I was down there, and it's not that expensive. 26 that's a good price for
Jody,
any
next
bottle of
time you
whiskey.
go down to Texas, let me know. I will happily front you the money for this bottle.
And he'll front mine as well.
And there's a lot of hands not on camera that would also
direct message and send a couple of these guys your PayPal account or Venmo.
AJ's got
Venmo,
me, so.
yeah, absolutely. Mosley, what do you think? I mean, would you buy this for 26?
Oh, I'd
shelf?
buy a couple probably.
Buy a couple.
Yeah. It's definitely it's good. It's smooth. I like that little oomph. I always like a good little I like a little heat to my whiskey. I like getting that on the back end. That's just kind of what I've always gone towards. The whiskeys that draw me in are the ones that it's smooth, but because I get that little bite, it keeps me wanting more and more and more.
Yeah,
and I like that a lot. So.
AJ, you had some tasting notes pulled up. What do they actually say about this as far as that goes?
So these guys, this is from the distillery.
Nate got one right.
All right, from the distillery, on the nose you get vanilla bean, which I think everyone agreed on. Mm-hmm. They actually said pear and slightly sweet.
Well, I think that's the sweetness.
The sweetness,
so
almost
maybe
like
they're pinpointing on the citrus side.
The taste, they've got honey butter, banana, and caramel. I've never had honey butter, but it's something I would definitely be willing to try that.
Anything
and
with
then
butter in it, really, I'm in.
All right, Paula Dean, relax. The finish, it says long, smooth, no burn. And I would agree with that. I don't think it has a burn.
Mosley's getting a little bit of that heat, and I'm not getting as much either. It's very smooth.
I don't know if burn's the right word, but I guess just that tiny little bite.
Little finish.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I think of burn, I think of it all of a sudden warms up the entire chest. Mm-hmm. When I think of, that little oomph, that little, something creeping up the nose, right. Didn't we say that we kind of look at that as like the rye? I don't know if there's any rye in this, but I always thought
show
that
a mash bill on this.
I'll have to look it up.
Or Dustin, if you can find it, no one can find it.
I know it's blended.
Thank you. So did I when I looked at the bottle.
I think it's got a little bit of a sharpness to it.
Okay,
the way
that's
the
what I'm
flavor's
looking
got,
for. That's the word I'm thinking
A
of.
sharp finish.
Yeah. Mm.
I mean,
it's long, but just the way the flavor hits, it's very sharp and crisp on the flavor. But the finish does last, decent.
Yeah.
It's as I'm drinking this glass though, it's getting really sweet. Is anyone else? With me on this?
It gets a little bit sweeter. I hit a little bit more of the caramel that he's saying.
Yeah. And I hate to say it, Steve, but you're right. I think this is the quickest or one of the quickest we've gone through our first glass.
Well, there's no heat, so you're not like really like sitting
having
letting
to
it
wait.
Not letting it finish. It's just kind of like you're good.
So that means if we all have to spend the night at your house, it's actually Jody Jack's fault.
No. Guess. Yeah. Jody, we're going to be sending an Uber over there with a car full of dudes. And that may have come across wrong. That's not what I meant. What I meant was don't unlock the door. Say you're out of town. You're in Texas again. No, thank you, Jody. She says she's going to be taking a suitcase with her the next time she goes to.
I think
an extra suitcase.
Fly Southwest.
Split
she doesn't have to pay for it.
Guys. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Lucrative business opportunity. That's what that's called.
That's called smuggling. Yeah.
No, that sounds way worse when you say it.
Muling. I like muling. Yeah. Stay on the topic of alcohol there. I like it.
Nate, you're drinking out of a Glencairn glass, and for those of you that don't know the difference, like we're all drinking out of what's considered like a rocks glass, so it's kind of that wide open shape, and then Nate's got they can't see it from there. He's got more of like it's like a flute. It's very narrow glass. It's got a little bit of a bulb. Oh, here comes Dustin with one of them. He's gonna.
If I'm not correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, it's designed to intensify the nose notes.
Right. Yeah. And as you're drinking it too, I think it's gonna kind of do that. Can I take a sip out of this? I'll backwash very little. See, and I can smell it more, for sure. I can get the vanilla on this one. What am I looking at here? Hang on.
Is that? Oh, more info. Oh, that was probably from the original one.
So I get a little
found.
bit more. This, if you get the TX blended whiskey here, Dustin, if you want to take that, and if you've got more info, you can grab the mic or. But I would recommend drinking this out of a Glencairn glass with this one because it kind of takes a little. It concentrates it a little bit more as I'm sipping on it. It tastes different than out of what I'm drinking because I've got a pretty wide open, big. Like Waterford, I think this is, or something like that. I don't know. That's what I was told.
It centralizes
it's a nice crystal glass you can knock someone out with. But those Glencairn ones is definitely going to be more concentrated. Do we have? It was a different one. Oh, never mind then. Nate, go ahead.
No, I was saying when I first took my couple sips before we went online with it, I actually got that banana flavor. And then when I later on looked it up, I was like, "Holy shit, I was right with one." Like it tastes that kind of fruity sweetness, but yeah.
But see, out of that Glencairn glass, I'm getting different notes on that.
Like, what are you getting out of the Glencairn?
Well, when you say banana, I mean, like, it's anytime someone says something, I kind of get into my head. Then I'm starting to like taste it. But it's just I don't want to say more complex, but it's not just that vanilla sweetness. There's a little bit more to it. I'd have to have a glass with that. In fact, Kyle, if you want to grab me one from the kitchen,
So
that'd be amazing. Because I kind of want to have my next glass in there.
So
no. That's not what I meant. I was just asking nicely.
So, and of course, as you said, it kind of, once you hear someone talk about the tasting notes, it kind of influences you. But now on the nose, it's almost like pure banana Laffy Taffy.
Ooh, okay,
Yeah.
So specific.
As soon as you said banana,
It's
it
the
like
best-
clicked, and I
that's
was
the
like,
best
okay,
kind
that's
of
there.
Laffy.
It's there.
That's the best Laffy Taffy. Banana is the best Laffy Taffy. I'm going on air
Justin
right
seems to
now.
not be a Laffy Taffy guy. No, Glencairn glass. I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you.
The
Thank you,
round
Kyle.
one.
Thank you, Kyle.
It looks like this.
Yeah. All right. So as we do that, anything else on the whiskey before we kind of go into the cigar a little bit?
It's awesome.
Actually, so
Please.
the earlier review that I found actually gave it a score. It's distiller.com.
Oh, you wanted us to give it a score, right?
Yeah. And so the first thing that popped up when you click on this link is they give it a distiller's score, a tasting score. So
Okay.
1 out of 100. I'm not going to go with it because I've already been influenced. But 1 out of 100, what would you score this bourbon?
1 being the best.
No.
Oh.
It never works like that. Never mind. We're going to Mosley first.
I would have passed a lot of classes if that was the case. Yeah.
Mosley, 1 out of 100. 100 being the highest.
Okay.
Where are you
I'm
putting
on the
this?
same page.
Are we
now.
talking just strictly like bourbons?
Just, yes. Yeah, just bourbon, whiskey, rye whiskey in general.
I'd put it at 70.
Okay.
70.
Okay.
Stiff judge.
Well, you got to be.
What's that really like? Like stiff Olympic judge, always from like one country. Is it Russia? Yeah. Everyone else gives it like 8s and 9s at 4. 4.
Seen better. 100 is the highest. Do I need to repeat myself?
All right, so carry the 1. I would say when I look at the typical scoring, right? You're going to be 70 is I would consider that a very low score when it comes to what you would read, online, unless you probably didn't like it, because I don't know. I still have like that school, grading scale. Yeah, like you're barely past, but that's just
For me, that's kind of like up there.
So
but it's not
better
my
than
favorite.
average.
Yes,
like a 7 out of 10.
Yeah,
I get
I'd put it that way.
I get you. Yeah, 7 out of 10 sounds better than 70, I guess,
Yeah.
for me, even though it's the
That's
same.
fair,
goddamn
yeah.
thing.
I'll bump it up to 80.
You do
There
need
we
to
go.
carry the 1, don't you?
Yeah. I'd say like 85.
All right.
85,
So
especially out of a rocks glass.
So this distiller.com actually gave it a 78. And they
Split
gave
the
it
difference there.
Yeah.
two dollar signs out of 5, and then the average ranking out of 406 tastes was 3.69. Very specific.
3.69 out of 5.
Out of 5, yes.
Okay. Jody
Yes.
Jody says, I love it and only give it an 85. So we're on the same page there as far as that goes. What would you have given it if you didn't read that, AJ?
Had I not read that, that I was gonna say. So now I have to carry the 1. I tell you honestly, I probably would split the difference between you two. Can I give a range? I'll be that guy. I'll be that guy giving
Give
it
a
a
number.
range.
You were the one that said give a number.
All right, fine. I'll give it and it's such a rookie score. I'll give it an 80 flat.
Okay.
So
That's fair.
yeah.
So we're all kind of in the same ballpark. I
Yeah,
guess.
absolutely.
It's good. It's different. It's sweet. It's easy drinking. I think anyone can have it. I think you have to go into it knowing that this is not like some of the ones we have been doing with like the barrel proofs and even like the 90-some percenters or 90-some proofers. It's a easy drinking whiskey. It's it's not trying to be. And again, at $26, if that's what you're buying it for in Texas, I'm not expecting necessarily something that's going to like make me sit down and really think about it. You know what I mean? It's going to be something like I take a sip, like, that's pretty good.
Right.
What is this? Oh, it's TX, blended whiskey. Like, oh, great. Jody says they have a straight bourbon whiskey at 94 proof that she's going to try next. I would be interested to try that because I like this at 82 proof, so that would be interesting. Dustin, do you find some more information there?
Yeah, I did. Actually, it's from distiller.com. So, AJ, I don't know if you read further than the rating and score.
Too many big words.
Right. So it's a proprietary blend of select whiskeys sourced from other distilleries. So it's not actually distilled by them. But that includes straight bourbon, whiskey matured in ex-bourbon barrels, and distilled grain spirit. So it's very vague.
Yeah.
But it's
a blended whiskey. So
right. So unlike some other blended whiskeys where it's, maybe a blend of 2 or 3, this one actually it says 3, but it could mean more. We just don't know.
Yeah.
But no, overall, like I said, for 27, 20, you know what? I would even pay, I'd say $32 for me is still a no-brainer. I would pay that. The 40 shipped, I'll probably just wait till Jody gets back from Texas.
See, the 26 to me, that's like a lower end, but I think that's just because we're used to Ohio prices where it's a little
super
bit
regulated.
Yes, so like the 26 to me, that sounds like a hell of a deal. So I'm gonna take 2 bottles just to have it on deck.
Yeah, no, I mean if you like it and you can get it for sub $30, I think you're on point there. With the cigar, La Aroma de Cuba, Mi Amor Reserva, you guys have been smoking this for a little while now. This is something. So just a quick one here. We've talked about Ashton before. And a couple of these brands that they've had. Ashton is the one that distributes this. It's from my understanding, it's their blend. They own the marketing. They revitalized the La Aroma de Cuba name in early 2000. I want to say 2002. It's a very old name that was a Cuban brand back in the day. So they kept the original artwork. So you have a lady on the band, and it's very classic looking. A lot of colors, yellow, red. You got some blue in there, and then obviously gold leaf. And this is something that this was for La Aroma de Cuba. This is the third addition to their line. You had the La Aroma de Cuba, and then you had the Mi Amor. And the Mi Amor won number 2 in Aficionado, I think, in 2012-ish. I think it was 2012. And then shortly thereafter, this was actually 11?
I think it was 11 because 12 was the Las Antillas.
Right. So, no, this was number 2. But it was 2011, 2012. It won a number 2 spot, I believe, in Cigar Aficionado. Had a lot of their high ratings. The Mi Amor had my understanding is a San Andres Mexican wrapper with Nicaraguan filler binder. The Reserva, basically, they made a more powerful as a response to people really enjoying the Mi Amor. The Mi Amor Reserva was put out. I think it was 2012. Now, 2011 was the Mi Amor. This 2012, if I'm not mistaken, this was released for the 10-year anniversary of the brand in the sense it is now. And they did a higher priming wrapper leaf, a San Andres, Cuban seed, San Andres, Mexican wrapper, very dark, Oscuro shade, which is going to be a very dark, some people would call it Maduro. Oscuro is typically going to be something like a shade darker than what a Maduro leaf would be, given where it's coming from, the seed, and everything else. So Oscuro is the darkest, almost black. 2013 was what, Nate?
Was when it got that rating.
Got the rating. The Mi Amor Reserva? Okay, so I'm talking about, Mi Amor got, I think, in 2011. Anyways, this was out. They umped it up, if we're going with that terminology still. And it's interesting. This is actually made by My Father Cigars. So Ashton, this is something that a lot of people may not realize if you're getting into cigar smoking or even if you've smoked cigars for a long time. Ashton, it's a company based out of Pennsylvania. They don't own any fields. They don't own any factories. They don't own any, may buy the tobacco, but really they're distributing. So they're essentially doing what we do with the BS brand. For those of you who are familiar with that, we work with manufacturers, whether they own the tobacco, they grow the tobacco, whatever it is, but we work with them. And we make a blend with them, marketing, you're a big guy in marketing, AJ. So it's something that they have all the Ashton products typically are going to be out of the Fuente family. So that's what got their start, the family that owns Ashton. Then they worked with My Father Factory for the La Aroma de Cuba. And so all that's going to be the Garcia family making this. They blended it with them. It's distributed by Ashton. So on the back of the box or on the bottom of the box, you'll find it has the J. Garcia signature stamp on there.
Not to be mistaken for Jerry Garcia, the guy that makes the ties.
I don't think Jerry Garcia makes the ties. That's how you know Jerry Garcia. Jesus. Yeah, not the tie maker, Jerry Garcia.
Not the musician Jerry Garcia.
Two
different people, right?
You only listen to country,
Two different
don't
people,
you?
right?
Either of them. So, yeah, Nate's chiming in there. Number 2 for Mi Amor. This got rated in 2013. That's what I was saying. This was the 10-year anniversary. It came out in 2012 as a response to the Mi Amor. This is a fuller-bodied cigar, especially for Ashton, in my opinion. For La Aroma de Cuba, this is going to be a fuller iteration of the original Mi Amor. What do you guys think of this cigar?
Smooth.
Smooth, okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting that. I typically like my cigars Maduro, so it's very, like you were saying, it's closer to that. And I don't know, it's an incredible cigar. I like it a lot.
Okay.
You were saying the Reserve was made with Oscuro, or the original was?
No, so this is a higher priming leaf wrapper.
Okay.
Now, they may have tweaked the blend as far as the filler, but that was the big part of it, is that they were like, we're going to make a similar blend to the Mi Amor. The Mi Amor Reserva is going to be a higher priming wrapper leaf, and so it's, again, Mexican leaf.
Right.
Over Nicaraguan binder and filler. This is going to have, when I say higher priming, do you guys both know
Educate.
what that is? Okay.
Yeah.
So the priming on the tobacco plant, so you're looking at basically the height of the tobacco plant. So the higher up you go, typically you might get smaller leaves, but you're going to have more strength to those. They're going to get more nutrients. So you typically, and you hear different terms, but for the sake of this conversation, you have Viso on the bottom, 1 or 2 primings. 3 or 4 is going to be Seco. So it's going to be very combustible on the bottom. It's lighter in strength. The middle leaves, you're going to have kind of a blend. You're going to have a little bit more strength, a lot of flavor, and you're going to have some good combustion there. The higher up, 5 and 6, are going to be what they call the Haro. And so I don't know exactly, because I couldn't find it, and I'd have to ask our Ashton rep, but where this falls. But I would say you're going to be in probably the 4 priming on that, maybe the 5th, but you're not. Because the Haro is tougher as far as combustion. It's a very hardy leaf, especially when you've got like the San Andres. But the Oscuro is going to be a darker shade. But as you go up, you get more strength. And I think that's what they were doing. When they say they did a higher priming, that means that they went a little bit higher on the plant. So I would assume, again, you're probably 4 or 5 on the typical priming. There is something above the 6 priming that we've talked about on the show before called medio tiempo, which is about, depending on the plant where you're growing it, is going to be, what did he say, like 1 in 12? Yeah, 1 in 12 plants have it. And then tobacco plant, what they do is they top it because you've got flowers. You hear like the flower. There is a flower that grows on a lot of the tobacco plants. They top those off so there's no pollination or anything like that. But that's they chop those off when they're in the growing process. So that's where you're at. So this one's going to be the higher priming. This one's going to be a little bit more powerful than your typical Mi Amor.
First off, thanks for taking us to school, because I had no idea about any of that, and I mean that's amazing. I love learning new things, and that
absolutely.
was fantastic. The main reason I asked that question though is because of the fact that, and maybe this is just from coming into the tinderbox too much, I'm starting to actually develop a palate.
Yeah.
But I really don't think this smokes quote unquote dark or full body. Like, I would still put this in that medium category.
Why do you say that?
I just, because when I think of dark, I think of in your face, powerful, very. I mean, don't get me wrong, it has the dark coloration, but I don't like. And this is just me referring it back to whiskey. Like when I think of dark cigar, I'm expecting a barrel proof or a cask strength flavor.
Okay.
And this, I see it, like Mosley said, as just a very smooth, balanced, no flavor is overpowering
Nothing's
another.
really knocking you in the jaw with it. It's got a good flavor to it.
Exactly.
Well, so Dustin was saying something on the feed. He thinks in the range of range in reference to coffee. That's interesting you bring that up because I think of some of the stuff that you have in the coffee stuff is that typically your stronger ones, like your golden, it's not a very bold, in-your-face flavor as much for me. So that's, I think, it's almost like a contradiction when you put those two trains of thought together. So a lot of times the strength, you have to smoke the whole cigar. So there's strength and there's body, or flavor. There's full flavor. I think this is a very well-balanced cigar. I get a little bit of pepper in the retrohale. I don't know if either of you guys retrohale through the nose. You do?
I learned how to do it like over the summer, and now it's just kind of.
Do you get a little pepper, or is it real smooth even in that for you?
It's a little smoother, but I do get that just a tinge of it, like the little bit of pepper. But now that I'm kind of more towards the end of it, I'm getting more of that fuller flavor, but it is still very smooth for me.
And kind of like what Mosley's getting at, I was going to add to it, from the start, very smooth, very balanced, nothing too crazy. But as we're getting into the middle, starting to get up towards the wrapper, we talked the last time I was on about cigars developing as you smoke them.
Absolutely.
And this definitely has a much more prominent flavor as you get to the middle, the end of it, than at the very beginning. Now, is that typical for all cigars?
Well,
or is it just how they roll them?
That's the way I consider the complexity. There's and Nate just writes it's a complex smoke. I think that this is it is complex. It's got complexity can be a lot of flavors, or it can be complex as you smoke it. It transitions a bit, and I think that this one, I would say it does transition. I think it builds as you smoke this one, and I get some pepper to it, especially in the retrohale. I will say, right off the bat, as I'm doing this, I'm smoking this and drinking the whiskey. It's not a bad combination, but I don't think this is like the top combo for me.
It's not a bad combo, but it's not that it's not the right combo. Or maybe it's not that it's not the right combo, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
So
what were you gonna say, AJ?
So I'm starting to think that the Romeo is. Do you say Julieta or Julieta?
Julieta.
So Romeo.
You can say whatever you want.
Romeo Julieta, I think, might actually be a better pairing overall because of the fact that you've got a lighter, sweeter whiskey. And then you can just tell right from the get-go, you put these two cigars side by side, the Mi Amor is going to be much, much darker, fuller body from that standpoint. And I think that the Romeo y Julieta
there you go.
is...
You got it.
Yeah, I'm on it now. I'm cultured.
Spanish. Spanglish. Go ahead.
I just think neither one is going to overpower the other. Something like this would probably pair really well with the barrel strengths, the cask strength.
It would be powerful.
Or barrel proof,
That'd be a very
sorry.
powerful combo.
Yeah.
But I go back to the whole thing where you guys didn't think it was very full at first, and I think that it is a stronger cigar. Maybe it's deceiving, but it's not going to be knock your socks off strength. It's not going to be the fullest thing you've ever smoked. But I would say that it's again very well balanced. But I don't know. Like I was trying to put flavors to it. I mean, it's just kind of like I said, like a peppery, spicy chocolate, cocoa. Some of those. I will say it brings out a little bit more oak out of the whiskey than I think would be, because I didn't get it in the beginning. I'm getting a little bit more now as I sip this. So I guess it kind of breathes more depth into the whiskey, especially now I'm doing the Glencairn glass.
So I did just unintentionally retrohale a little bit, and I get the pepper that you're talking about now. I was getting ready to say something, and then the smoke went up into the nose. But no, I understand where you're getting those slight pepper notes from.
Yeah, it's just good flavor. Eric Evans asked, does it help or hurt the bourbon? What do you guys think?
My bourbon's gone.
Same.
There's a bottle right in front of you.
I didn't want to kill it, though. Obviously, the bourbon is fantastic on its
own. If Jody's
own.
Out there, is AJ allowed to have another glass of this?
Please.
Is Mosley also allowed to have
also
another?
Mosley.
But no, honestly,
so
the entire time I've been smoking this cigar, though, I couldn't help think, what steak am I going to eat before I smoke this? Because this is something I would want to have directly following like you said, a big prime rib aged minimum 14 hours.
Prime rib.
Medium rare, bring it to me.
Would you even go a ribeye?
Are you talking like peppercorn? And
You
I
can do
like your
peppercorn.
ribeye
With
too.
the ribeye, you get the full flavor.
I'd do a bone-in ribeye. At least 18 ounces, maybe more.
You know why? I mean, it's a good smoke. Why don't we just go all out? We'll just each get a tomahawk.
So,
I
all
got a
right.
couple.
Side note here. let's get
Dustin
into
just
this.
said
Hang on.
he's paying.
Hang on. Have you guys heard of this? So it was interesting and it was good. Jody Jack says, "Finish it or open a new one." Good. Jody, you need to come on the show,
Please.
Yeah, and just run it for us. No. So side note with the pepper, like you're asking this, and Avi says ribeye for sure. I like Avi a lot for multiple reasons, but that's a good choice. Had a pre-cooked tomahawk steak from Costco, I think. Has anyone heard of this?
Hey, why are you buying tomahawk?
No, don't say like it's not. It was actually Liz's dad got it because it was on on sale, it was a good deal or whatever. And
Okay.
Liz was like, "Hey, I got this. Do you guys want this?" And we're like, "Yeah." I mean, Liz was like, "Yeah, we'll try it." And it came with like a sauce and everything you put on it and everything. You just basically throw it in the oven for not that much time. It was like 15, 20 minutes or something like that. This thing
Is
was
that
a
the one where they
beast.
like sear it first and then?
Yeah, we didn't have to do that. It was
Okay.
just like the instruction. It was surprisingly good, but it like out of like just moral ground, I didn't get it. I like and it was like, hey, there's a box with a steak in our fridge,
Well, that's
and it was surprisingly good. It was a little fatty, but I mean, it was surprisingly good, and it had a good like sauce on it and everything. Like, has anyone done this? I mean,
No.
There was like, what
well. So I think
it was good. I mean, it was actually good.
I think the
pleasantly
confused
surprised.
nods that you're getting is as carnivores, as meat eaters, which I think all of us in the garage value good steaks.
Right.
It goes against everything
That's
that
my
you're
point.
told
But
growing
it was
up.
very good. I don't know.
Which I mean, I would love to have one.
I'm confused. Like I'm confused about our robot vacuum cleaner.
I wish I could say I was surprised. They're doing.
And then I tried to use the vacuum cleaner earlier, and I was like, before everyone came over, I was like, oh, I'll just hit this thing. The remote that comes with it, the battery's already dead, and we've had it since Christmas, so I don't know if they're.
You got to get the app.
The app, yeah, I need to
gotta get
because
the app.
I hit the start button and then it starts moving around. I was like, I'm not gonna like deal with this right now because it's like running into things and turning around in circles and all that stuff. So I grabbed the remote. I'm like, oh shit, this thing, I can't even get it to go back to its home. So then I have to like track this thing down in the house and I'm kind of nervous touching it. I see the off button. I'm like,
No,
I just like did it real quick, like I'm like hurting it.
No-
It just stops and I'm like, are you good?
note to Steve: you don't need a dog or a cat because you have a vacuum cleaner.
I'm telling you. I kind of want a dog. We're getting a dog here in the next this year. I'm interested to see the interaction between these two beasts.
Well, remember, dogs don't have an off button.
I know, which is good and bad.
But complete side note,
I had to pick it up and put it back on its home. Anyways,
It might have been clickbait. It might have been whatever you want to call it. But
Catfish?
there's actually vacuum cleaner battle bots now.
I was just about to say that.
You saw
There's-
it
there's-
too.
Yeah.
It's like
What's the main name for the little disc vacuums? What are the
Roomba.
Roomba's. Yes, they're.
we have I don't know, something else. D-Bot? D-Bot, yeah.
So you need to enter your D-Bot into the Roomba battle bots now.
they tape helium balloons on it, and then they tape a knife on the back end.
That's
And then it just
I've
goes
seen
back.
that
They
video.
go.
That's not really battle bots. I think there needs to be more destruction there.
So
Like
put
one
a
enters,
table saw on the
two
back
enter
end.
and one leaves. That's type. That's type of thing there. So where like the little brushes are, because it looks like little they're out there, right? Those need to be like blades.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like we need to outfit this thing.
I'm sure you can replace those. I mean,
Oh, I'm sure
put a
there's an
couple razor
aftermarket
blades
for-
on there
yeah.
and just
Look
let it
for,
go to town
Look for Steve on the next episode of BattleBots.
with his Roomba.
No, thanks.
Fully outfitted Roomba that has a mind of its own because he can't hit the
All right.
power button anymore.
Armor plated Roombas.
We've derailed and it's my fault. And it cusses. Some of them do. Yeah, there's an aftermarket for that too. Anyways, all right. La Aroma de Cuba. Where are we at here? Shorter episode
Well,
one.
before we got off
ahead.
track,
Yeah.
we were discussing how the cigar and the whiskey pairs together.
Does it help or hurt it? Thank you very much. Does it help or hurt it? Eric Evans asked. I'm going to say it doesn't. I mean, a little bit of both. I think that they both stand alone. I think that, like I said already, it brings out more from the whiskey. The whiskey doesn't really affect, in my opinion, the cigar a little bit. Maybe it dries me out a little bit, going from that real sweetness to that Mexican wrapper, that blend that we have there. So like I kind of like my mouth is starting to get a little dry. Are you guys getting that at all? Or
Well,
no?
I think with what you said, I think you hit the nail on the head with this whiskey is mouth-watering. It does, it makes you want another glass.
Sweet.
It makes you want another sip. Either of these by themselves, I would absolutely buy. But I will say this: if I have the TX in my collection and I'm smoking this cigar, I would pick a different bourbon to go with it. It's not that
or
it's
vice
bad.
versa.
Yeah.
If I had that bottle and we're having that, I would pick a different cigar.
Yeah, it's not that it's bad by any means together, but there are better options to pair with.
Yeah, Dustin, are you smoking the Reserva Real?
Yeah.
And you're drinking the TX?
Yeah.
Grab the mic and give us a little bit of your feedback on that, based on what you heard from us, just to give a little bit of a contrast there, if you will, of what you're thinking.
Sure.
How
So
it pairs.
So the Reserva Real is actually much lighter compared to, the Mi Amor.
Right.
But I think it pairs very well with the TX. The cigar amplifies the sweetness even more, which, depending on who you are, could be a good thing or a bad thing.
Could be a good, yeah.
But I think the combination of the two is like the perfect summer pairing.
Yeah, I can see that.
Nice summer day. It's not too hot out. You got a lower proof whiskey with a little bit of sweetness. Nice, mild, smooth cigar. Not anything that's going to be too overpowering, no matter how hot it is outside. So I think it's a really great combination.
Okay, that's good feedback, because I think that's kind of what I expected, honestly.
I think with like the Mi Amor, I think I'm noticing that if I take a puff and then kind of wait a couple seconds and take a drink of the whiskey, it's still got that heavy sweetness to it.
Yeah.
But if I take a puff and then go immediately to the whiskey, it tones that sweetness way down and gives you more of the whiskey taste.
And that's what I was saying about oakiness.
Right.
You get a little oakiness out of it that
Right.
you wouldn't get it. Yeah.
When like what Mosley was saying, if you take a couple puffs out of this and then go straight to the whiskey, I get a little more of that up in the nose kind of taste, smell, whatever you want to call it, from the whiskey.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's this thing here?
That's the topper.
That's the ring toss.
That goes with the whiskey. Oh, we we skipped right over my favorite part of diving into cigars and stuff like that.
Get back into it.
The marketing of the bands.
All right. Well, I mentioned what it looks like.
Yeah,
go
but
ahead.
I mean, you completely missed the side parts. I mean, there's a whole side scene of this band. It's got an anchor. I mean, there's a lot of gold leaf. It's got the anchor. There's a treasure chest. It's just, honestly, the band itself would make me want to buy this cigar. And I think I've said that on the second time I was on. I forget what the cigar was, but yeah, this would stand out in a humidor with a lot of different cigars.
Now that I'm like looking at the band, it almost kind of, if you look at on the left and right there,
you're not related to the girl on the band, I promise.
Yeah, I think we come from different parts. But the kind of the top parts there give you sort of an island feel. So to me, if I'm walking into a humidor and I'm looking at these different cigars and I'm looking at the kind of the images on there, that kind of puts me in the mood for summertime or even like early spring. So if it's like May, June, July, I'm more likely to go in there and look at that and see, oh, I can sit out on my back porch and smoke this on a summer day versus...
Well, I think that's the old, Cuban feel to it, and that's again they kept a lot of the old marketing behind the Cuban line was like I said, that artwork on there, the original, like the Aroma de Cuba. This is a little more dressed up, the Mi Amor Reserva.
Yeah.
They kind of dressed it up, and I think it was obviously for strategic reasons that the original Aroma de Cuba is very similar but more basic, not quite as flashy, not as punchy.
With the gold on there, it really
stands
out.
And then the Mi Amor, it's a little bit more dressed up, and then this one's got a little more gold leaf feel to it. A little more, just a bit of metallic on there. It's a little more colorful. It's in your face, but a classy way. And it does give you a little bit of that traditional Cuban island feel. Yeah, the culture.
There's a lot of
There's that
culture on the
ambiance
name.
there. Yeah.
No, definitely. We never even delved into that. Man, we're skipping all over the place. What?
Your schedule is different than mine. But go ahead.
I always come back to stuff.
Go ahead.
So, dollar for dollar, what is this running?
So this one's going to be a little pricier than the rest of the line, but you're not anything crazy. This is the Maximo size, and I want to say this one is around 11, give or take.
I pay 11 for
Oh,
this.
yeah, I
You're
would
not
too.
too
Absolutely.
pricey on these. They have they had a more recent edition. I believe it was the Noblesse. Is that no? That's Ovation. Noblesse, was that La Roma? Or was that San Cristobal? So they had the Ovation. Anyways, they had a more recent one that was a pricier La Roma.
Yeah, La Roma was the
Noblesse. Which was a more medium-bodied cigar. It was a completely different blend. It was a nice cigar, but at least for us, it was interesting because with that, when you went into it, everything else, like the La Roma baseline, if you will, is going to be in that kind of like $8, like $6 to $8 range. The Mia More is going to be in that 8 to 10, and then this is like that 10 and up,
10, okay.
depending on the size. And so that you'll get a little bit of that. And when they went to a pricier limited edition, for us, it didn't sell. It was a great cigar, but it didn't sell all that well because of that, I think.
I think a lot of people look at it and they look at as soon as you get past the 10, they start looking at it as like the classier.
Well, it's a more premium, if you will, or whatever you call it. I mean, once you start spending, like if you're at $5 to $10, that's pretty average. In fact, it's lower than average now. But I mean, once you get to that $12, which is like the $10 to $12 is becoming the more average. Much like we talk about bourbons, they're going to be getting into that kind of, at least in Ohio, $30 to $50 range. Where before it was like this bottle, if you can get it for $26 that we're drinking, the TX blended whiskey, that's a good deal.
Great deal, yeah.
You got competition down on that price point, but this is a very smooth one, very kind of like a polished flavor. It's very balanced, it's sweet and everything like that. But if this was in that $50 range, it's changing a little bit as far as if you're going to buy that, you're going to pick it up off the shelf, much like this one. But I think this one stands up for that $10 to $13 range. This is a great cigar.
I will say that too. The 10 to 13 range, getting this kind of quality, and you're saying this is a little bit more expensive than what some of their other ones are going for.
Correct.
Excuse me. I now want to come in and try out the other ones in the lineup, though, to see if their quality holds up to what this is.
Well, I think My Father Cigars makes good cigars. I mean, as far as quality, construction, flavor, and all that stuff, I mean, they've got a wide scope. They make cigars for a lot of different brands. This is one of them. And I think that the strategy behind, Ashton doing this with My Father is that they have a somewhat a consistent ballpark that they're hitting as far as flavor profile, strength. You're in that medium to full, most of them, rich flavors, a little heartier. So that I mean, this is something that you should definitely try the other brand names in that. Nate, do you have anything else to add on this? He's shaking his head no. All right. Well, as far as part one here, I want to thank everyone, Caleb Mosley and AJ Kazmerzak, Dustin and Nate and Kyle and the audience, all of you guys out there. If you're watching on Facebook Live, again, if you guys are available on Wednesday nights, we typically do Facebook Live around 7:30 every Whiskey Wednesday. So we do, and we'll have guests. Next week we have a special guest, Shannon Chapman. And he's going to be coming on and might actually be able to share his story a little bit before. So we'll put that on the community page and on the podcast page and get some info out for you guys that are interested for the second part of next week's episode. But he's someone that I've known for quite some time, cigar and whiskey guy, all-around good guy. And he's got a hell of a story and where his life's taking him right now. So I'll get into that more. But for tonight, stay tuned for part two. Or if you're listening to the audio, click over to part 2 101, where we're going to be talking about consistency is key. And for part one, I want to thank once again our sponsors. First and foremost, I want to thank Jody Jacks for donating the bottle of TX blended whiskey all the way from Texas. She brought it back for the podcast, which is amazing. We appreciate that, Jody, very much. We very much enjoyed it. Tinderbox at Easton for the Mi Amor Reserva from La Aroma de Cuba. And also Altadis USA for the Reserva Real Romeo Julieta, which I'm going to be lighting up next. And then also BS Cigar Company. Again, the silvers are available if you guys are interested in them. Get a hold of us, and you can definitely get some sent to you or stop by before we run out, before the next shipment's in. We're trying to get it more consistent. Once we get the golds back in, we'll definitely level out a little bit more as well, and we'll announce that. I also want to mention one more time the Bourbon and BS podcast community page. We're up to 620-some members. We're having some great conversation. The plans this year are going to be something that we can not only promote the podcast, some of the merchandise that is going to be available through the Patreon page that will be included in some of that, but make it available for everyone else. And then also meetups. So one of the goals is that we've got a lot of big base out of the Columbus area, Ohio area, but we're all over the country. I recently put a post out there, where are you guys from, and it was all over.
There was still
all over.
I mean, you put this post out, what, 2-3 days ago?
It was about a week or so ago, honestly.
Okay, so even better, about a week ago, and literally today
there was someone that posted
we had someone that posted on that same thread that you had mentioned, and it's not just all over the country. You're pretty much all over the community is all over the world at this point.
Yeah, and so, I mean, it's all about networking and inviting people to it. So one of the things that I want to do this year, and I've already had a couple of establishments reach out, but I might be doing some meetups in the Columbus and the surrounding areas. And then one of the things that I'd like to get going, because we have people from all over, is get up, not necessarily like chapters of it, but set up if you are, so like Jake, who was the co-host of the show for the majority of the existence, and he's also an admin on the page. He's in Indianapolis now, so if we can grow a base in Indianapolis, that would be something where, it's something that you can meet, you talk to people on the community page, and then go out to a bar. And I'm looking at setting up something where it'd be a specific date. Maybe we can work out some deals on cocktails, make sure it's a cigar-friendly one, or if it's not, we can at least do that. But there's some things in the works, so definitely invite your friends and everyone else that you want to be a part of that page. You think would enjoy it. And also, like I said, the Patreon page is a way that you can donate or contribute to the podcast so that it makes this more self-sustaining. We have whiskey, we have the proper technology and updated equipment, really. So thank you guys very much. Episode 101. Point one, part one, whatever you want to call it. Steve Crane, AJ Kazmerzak, Caleb Mosley coming back for part two. Stay tuned on Facebook Live. Guys, cheers and happy Whiskey Wednesday.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Happy to be here.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Clear?
I have to pee like a real.
All right, go ahead.
Dibs
Go
first.
ahead. No, go ahead. There's also one downstairs in the basement.
Wait a second. I'm half redneck. I'm going outside.
Just go downstairs.
Yeah.
AJ, go downstairs.
Okay. All right.
That door right there. Huh? Yeah, Sean, get in here. Sean, get in here. So as everyone's doing this, Dustin even commented on there, hang tight, everyone will be back for part two very soon. We like to keep this going. This is something that the second part's going to be consistency is key. And I'll give you guys a little frame of reference on what we're thinking with this topic. So if you guys have been tuned in from the beginning, if not, I'll give you a summary, and Caleb will introduce himself. Again, he goes by Mosley. That's his last name. But he's a strength and conditioning coach for a high school in the Columbus area. And one of the big things, continuing with the Javi says, lift the seat up, AJ. Exactly. He can't hear you or see you right now. But one of the biggest New Year's resolutions, and I'll kind of repeat myself a little bit as we start this on the audio, but one of the biggest things is that fitness, I'm going to get in shape this year, all that good stuff, and we're a week into the new year. And one of the things that we want to really talk about is the consistency, and I'm interested to see what Caleb Mosley has to say about this, but that's kind of the frame of reference. But as always, it's going to go into different avenues. So if you guys have any questions when it comes to New Year's resolutions in the fitness world and the just the overall health, this is the year I'm going to do it. I'm going to start Monday, all that good stuff, and having the wealth of knowledge of having an actual strength and conditioning coach on the podcast, go ahead and send those questions in. We appreciate that. And then between myself, Nate, Dustin, we'll try to make sure that we're answering all those questions. See Nate there in the side doing his producing duties. Nate, do you have any questions for this break here while they are relieving themselves?
Well, if I had questions for them, it would be kind of pointless to ask.
Well, I'm here. Jesus. Like, oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right. So, when can our listeners expect to hear more information about Smoking Tent number 8?
It's a good question. So, for those of you that know about this, so we're going to be Smoking Tent Event 8, Tinderbox at Easton. It is March 15th. We're trying to get tickets on sale by Wednesday, next Wednesday. So, next Whiskey Wednesday, the 15th. We have locked down 10 vendors so far. We might squeeze in a couple more. We're not sure. It just depends on what we can do with the other 10. For those that are into the cigar industry, not just the bourbon, but the cigar side, we have locked up some special guests. No, I'll go ahead. So we have locked up Eric Espinosa, who does our BS Silver. He has some great cigars. So Eric Espinosa is going to be at the 10 event again. We're going to be featuring some cigars from him. We got Ricky Rodriguez coming from CAO. He's the master blender. And then let's see, who else do we have? We got Ricky. We got Eric. We've got we're trying to lock down Alec Rubin from Alec Bradley again. We have
Hirochi
Robina, which would be a special treat for multiple reasons. Tentatively might have Hirochi in the garage the Wednesday before. I can't promise that, but Hirochi Robina is a fifth-generation Cuban farmer. We did the HR a while back, HR Signature. We did the illegal tobacco recently, which is influenced by him as well, and that La Familia Robina. So Hirochi is going to be in the tent. We also have Rocky Patel. So Rocky's going to be in the tent this year for the first time. We've had Nish Patel several times. And then also we just locked down Christian Aroa. So Christian Aroa from CLE Cigars,
That's
Asylum
awesome.
Aroa. So far we're there. I'm working on getting Rafael Nodal from Aging Room, who has the current Cigar of the Year through Cigar Aficionado.
Not the tennis star.
Not the tennis star. He
Gotcha.
might be there too. I don't know. We'll sell tickets to anyone, but so we're working on, and so the big part is that we have 100 VIP tickets going to be available. They're going to go very fast. That's going to be where they're going to have a Q&A session with that panel of who's of the industry.
That's a heck of a dais right there.
Yes. And you're going to get cigars from everyone, and then also the general admission will get cigars from everyone as well. There's a brunch for the VIPs. There's a lunch for everyone, full bar. I'm trying to twist this guy's arm next to me, my left, stage right, AJ to be there with Jennings' job again because he was a big hit with the coffee. So we're working on that. He's got a big fee, so we'll see if we can squeeze that in as well. If the ticket prices are a little pricey, it's because of the Jennings Java booth, but I'm not going to point fingers to anyone.
No, we will be there. We will be in attendance. Absolutely. Honestly, I look for this being the best one yet. I mean, that's an all-star lineup that you just listed off.
It is.
I'm just hoping that I'm able to get a coffee in Eric Espinosa's hand or the entire panel's hand before they go up.
We can do it.
That was honestly, what was that, 2 years ago, I think was the first time you had us out, and Eric Espinosa, just the cigar industry as a whole is amazing because of the fact that the people are so down to earth. You know, Eric Espinosa, who owns one of the bigger companies, great cigars, stuff like that, casually comes up to two Joe Schmo college kids and is like, heard you guys got good coffee, let me have one.
He's
and
a
then,
coffee guy, too.
And then takes it up on stage with him. So, yes, absolutely, we'll be there. We'll be bringing our A game. Might even have, some special coffee that we're bringing for that.
I bring the people. It's up to you what you do with them.
Someone had asked, do we know what day those tickets are going to go on sale yet?
So, like I said, tentatively next Whiskey Wednesday.
Okay.
That's the goal. We're working. I've got a couple reps coming in tomorrow. We're going to work on some of the finer details. We're just making sure that the costs that we have this year for the different tier tickets are going to be accurate and make sure that we can add certain value. Because there's also a bigger swag bag with a VIP than there is general. Shannon had a question what time. So tentatively, it's going to be 10:30 in the morning for the VIPs on Sunday the 15th. And then general admission will be around 1:30. It goes until 6 o'clock. And regardless of the weather, but we'll have the after party on the Fido patio. Or if it's too cold and you guys want to have a couple more drinks or whatever, the Fido Irish Pub next door, who we actually do this a co-op event with, and they provide the food. Killer food, off menu. It's like lamb lollipops, crab cakes. I forget, they got like just a ton of killer food, and then again, full bar. It's cash bar as well. So, and we'll actually, for those of you looking at it, as on Sunday the 15th, there'll be TVs showing the March Madness, whatever tournament. I think play-in games are going on.
Basketball. It's basketball. You said whatever tournament.
It's called
I wasn't sure if
hoops.
I'm more interested in the
High school basketball will be on the TVs
is
in the tent.
World Curling Championship. Is that ringing a bell?
It does. I had a college roommate that was really into that. He used to like just go to the bar and get hammered and watch curling at the Olympics. It was amazing.
I didn't even know it was on TV other than in the Olympics.
Well, yeah, it was amazing. All right, Nate, what else you got? And let's get started here. All right.
All right. Going to share it one more time.
Welcome back to Bourbon and BS Podcast, episode 101. This is part 2. I think what we're going to do going forward, just to kind of give you guys a heads up, this might just be starting to be called the Beyond the BS episode every week. So I'm going to give that card to all you guys, is that it might be Bourbon and BS Podcast for part 1 and Beyond the BS Podcast for part 2. We'll see what we do, how we do with that. But let me know what you guys think of that. Anyways, I want to thank our sponsors, Tinderbox at Easton, for providing us with the smoke for part 1, which was the La Aroma de Cuba, Amor Reserva. And that was a fantastic smoke. Tune in to listen to what we have to say about that. And then the TX blended whiskey that was donated from one of our community members, Jody Jacks. We went over that, the first part of this podcast, so 101 part 1. And then also Altadis USA for providing us with the part 2 cigar, the weekly second cigar. You guys are lighting up. I'm not quite there yet. It is the Romeo Julieta Reserva Real. It's a fantastic, milder cigar, one of their best sellers for sure. It's right up there with the Romeo Julieta 1875 blend, so I know it's one of their top sellers as well. Very popular, very, very smooth, easy smoking cigar. I think most people would enjoy. And also BS Cigar Company. We have the silvers on the table. We've talked about that plenty. If you guys are interested in ordering any of these, you get 15% off this week until the end of business for Tinderbox at Easton on Tuesday of next week. And that will be 15% off the La Aroma de Cuba, any size that we have. We do it in store, or if you guys are national, you're not able to get into the store, we will mail out minimum of 5 cigars per order with 15% off. And as you call in, you can also order the Reserva Real. If you do 10 or more, we'll give you 10% off all your cigars. Also, that includes the BS Silvers that we have in stock. And when we get the BS Golds back in, we'll be happy to send you those as well. Also, Bourbon and BS Podcast on the Patreon page, patreon.com/Bourbon and BS Podcast, and you can contribute monthly to that. Starts off default right now $5 per month. You can punch in anything you'd like, but that helps us out a lot. We've got a handful of patrons so far, and we really appreciate it. It's actually helping this go even smoother as we go into the new year. And we're looking at doing some thank you packages for the people that are currently involved. And then after the fact, we'll be introducing some tiers with some thank you packages as well, with some swag, both podcast related and also cigar and or whiskey related as well.
Well, and I mean, not to continue to tout you guys, but you guys are doing a really great thing for the community. The topics, the diving in and dissecting whiskeys, and I'm going to make sure you get the last bit of that. Diving in and dissecting whiskeys and cigars and stuff like that, $5 a month.
You can put less, you can put more, whatever.
It's 2 monsters. Save yourself on the 2 monsters. You don't need all that caffeine anyways.
Hey,
and you're not going to miss the $5. That's what pre-workout's for.
Yeah.
It's the only reason I wake up.
But no, you're right. And like I said, it was interesting to see, and I appreciate. So we've got a handful, and I've mentioned some of them before, like Sean and Spencer and some of the people that have been on the podcast. But we had one, and I want to give a shout-out to Nick Fox, who contributed recently, and he was doing $5 a month. That was the default. And I don't know if he listened to last week's or whatever when we said that, but I got an email this morning that he upped it to $10. And again, you can do less, $1 a month, $2 a month, whatever it is, but every little bit helps us to be able to do this every week, because it's time, it's effort, and it's cost into the different things that we're drinking, smoking, the equipment. We just had to do a new mixer board, all that good stuff. But enough about that. I mean, we just appreciate all the support, and it helps us and worthwhile. You can also donate individual stuff. We had Spencer Lappin donate these mics. We had Avi donate a laptop for me because I had an 8-year-old laptop that was failing, and definitely don't have enough patrons to supply me with another $1,000+ laptop that I'm going to get. So that helped out a lot. If you notice the better lighting on this episode, if you're watching the video, that was from anonymous donor, Sean. So I appreciate that. I had actually thought about getting one of these, and he's like, "Hey, man, like, you got a package coming from Amazon." I was like, "That's amazing." I had no idea what it was. So that's amazing as well. So if you guys want to help out and you guys are enjoying the show, not only share it, like it, review it on whatever platform you guys are enjoying it, but this is something that we like to do every week. So without further ado, I do want to get into the topic for part 2 here, Beyond the BS, is consistency is key. And I mentioned it on the Facebook Live kind of intermission when you guys are in the bathroom. Consistency is key. When you're
Not
looking
together.
I've got multiple bathrooms, but whichever ones you picked separately or together, that's up to you. I have 3 bathrooms in the house. I'd rather you not go into the master, but whatever it takes. So that being said, so we're a week into the new year, and last week we talked a bit about the responsibility of a new year, and I really enjoyed that episode with Dustin and Ryan. We had some great conversation in first and second part, but I really thought about this, having Caleb Mosley on, and we call him Mosley, being a strength and conditioning coach. That's the title, right?
Yeah.
In high school. So multiple sports.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Do all sports.
All
at
sports
my high school, yeah.
at the high school. What high school is that?
Watkins Memorial High School out in Pataskala, Ohio.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So having him on, one of the biggest things, I was trying to frame this conversation this week with you coming on, which I appreciate you joining us in the garage.
Absolutely glad to be here.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So having him on, it was something that one of the more typical New Year's resolutions is obviously what? Getting in shape.
Fitness.
Mm-hmm. Fitness,
Yeah.
nutrition.
Yeah.
I'm going to eat better.
New
I
year,
want to
new
lose
me.
weight. Yeah, new year, new you, all that bullshit.
Steve loves that term.
Yeah. Steve, I share the same feeling with that term.
No,
that
I
you
mean,
do, so.
whatever it takes. It's fine. Like, honestly, I think it's great if that's what it takes, whether it's a calendar date, a holiday,
Right,
whatever it is. I like that. But I thought about the fact that there are some people that have already dipped off a week later.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So
a lot of my athletes, actually.
A lot of your athletes. You come out of the holidays, you're like, hey, I'm really motivated and all that stuff, and then you get to that first weekend, so your normal schedule gets back into place, and that's one of the things that I struggle with as well. Holidays are big when you're into retail and doing things.
Yeah,
Your
absolutely.
hours are extended. People are taking vacations, so you have more customers, but if you're on the other side of that, you have more people that are taking time off. They're eating poorly, so it's like, hey, all right, so whether you've been doing it before when it comes to the fitness and nutrition and just basically treating your body like a temple, is you take a break, which is fine every once in a while.
Right.
But when you come into the new year and you're trying to get all this taken care of and you're trying to really build yourself up, because so much, and I think you know a lot about this, is that so much of your overall demeanor, your attitude, your sleep, everything is based on how you treat your body.
Right.
And you don't have to be a bodybuilder. You don't have to
Right.
be a football player like you're helping out. You don't have to be an athlete, but just an everyday person. Consistency is key in anything. But for starters, I mean, we can go into any aspect of life like we typically do, but for having you on, like tell us a little bit about like what your job is, what it entails, how many students, how many people are you working with on a daily basis, and also what got you into it. I see you got a Rogue sweatshirt,
Yeah.
is that right?
Yeah.
And you
Hey.
knew Kyle, our photographer from Old School Gym in
Right.
Pataskala area.
Yep. That's actually, I met Jake years ago through
There
that
as well.
Yeah.
Which I want to give a shout out to Business Biceps.
Yep.
That's a great podcast out there with Corey Gregory and
Absolutely.
John Fosco. I love those guys. They actually helped us out a little bit when we first started.
Okay. Yeah.
By way of Jake. And
Great
so
guys,
we
yeah.
always want to support those guys. Check out their podcast, Business and Biceps. Very, very popular podcast here,
Yeah.
based out of Columbus as well. So give us a little about like what got you into all of this.
So really, like, what kind of got me there was I didn't really know what I wanted to do after high school. I was kind of just going through the motions. I kind of had a couple avenues I sort of wanted to go. College wasn't my ideal goal, but I knew that like eventually I would have to do something. And to kind of backtrack a little bit, I had a certain avenue I thought I was headed after high school.
What was that?
I was actually wanted to join the military and go that route. And being an 18-year-old kid, I kind of struggled with what do I want to do? Where do I want to go with this? How do I want to do this? Why do I want to do what I want to do? And I was working a full-time job the summer after I graduated, making way more money than any single 18-year-old probably should be making, But it was, I kind of slacked off a little bit and didn't really have any goal. I was just kind of working. And then on the weekends, I would hang out with my friends and kind of go that route. And I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks before the semester started, my buddy texted me and was like, "What are you doing with your life?" And that wasn't like a slight at me. That wasn't really like a it sounds
see, like,
harsh.
an Instagram post or something like that, and you're like passed out in a gutter somewhere.
No. But he texted me. He said, "What are you doing with your life?" And it was just kind of a friendly like,
get your ass in gear.
yes, like what are you doing?
Was it that, or was it just like, "Hey man, what's up"?
It was more of a "Hey man, what's up?"
Okay.
It was more yeah.
You took it as,
No,
what am I doing with my life?
It wasn't. It was less
Turn
that.
the lights
but I
down
was,
low, and you're just like, fuck.
Oh fuck yeah. No.
Nothing, I guess.
I just remember sitting there and like looking at that, and it kind of just like hit me.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit! Like I don't really have a game plan after this, 9 to 5 job every day. Like, what do I do? So, long story short, I go sign up for classes, and 2 weeks later, I'm sitting in an anthropology class. Yeah, and I had seen a movie. Yeah. So I'd seen a movie, and I was like, you know what, anthropology would be kind of cool. Like, why not? So I go to my advisor's office, and I'm like, hey, I want to change my major, because I went in undecided, and she goes, okay, to what? And I said, anthropology. And she goes,
what was her response?
She looked at me and said, why? And
It's a valid question.
I looked at her, and I was like, do you want the real answer, or do you want the answer I would tell my parents? And she goes, give me the real answer. And I was like, I'm in this class. I think it's really cool. And I went and saw this movie that had archaeologists in it. And
Indiana Jones and the...
Yes, in the Raiders of the Lost
Temple
Ark.
of the Hidden Skull, or the Crystal Skull.
So I asked her if I could change my major to
Were
that.
you wearing a fedora at the time?
I went out and got the leather jacket and everything the
Caleb,
night
is that
before.
a whip on your
He already
belt there?
had his European
I
shoulder
cracked
bag and
it as
everything.
soon as I got in the door. So she was like, well, why do you want to do that? And I told her, and she was like, okay. And she kind of gave me this look like, you're full of shit. Like, she said, go online and take this quiz. I was like, okay. So I go and take this kind of online college questionnaire, sort of, what are you doing? What do you want to do?
What are you supposed to be placed in?
Yes,
based off of your interests, things like that. Okay.
Exactly. So I go take this quiz, and it comes back that I'm kind of more geared towards like the science field. And I was like, okay. And then she asked me, what have you wanted to do? Is there anything in the past? And I was kind of, I don't know. So then the next week, I'm sitting there thinking, like, what do I do with my life? Where am I going to go? And kind of the only sort of thing that I've always, like, done, because my hobbies were lifting, not to sound like a total bro or like a meathead. But
bro out a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll stop you if you bro out.
Okay, all right. But it was like lifting and hanging out with my friends. Like, those were the top two. And I was like, well, shit, I can't.
So hanging out with your friends?
Yeah.
It's tough to find a major there.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I can't really do anything with that. And she was like, okay, well, think about lifting maybe. And I was like, okay. So I started doing a little research. And it's funny because Corey Gregory was one of my idols, like all through high school and everything.
Yeah.
And so I started looking into what can I do with lifting. And I found that exercise science was a thing, and that you could get a job being a strength and conditioning coach. And I was like, I'm there, sold. So
never mind the fact that he had a strength and conditioning coach and never put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah,
I could do that.
Well, I mean, that happens with a lot. I mean,
Right,
that's a lot of fields. You look up to someone, or you have someone influential in your life, and you're like,
Absolutely.
man, that'd be great. He really good person in my life and really taught me a lot. But when it comes to like you picking
just
something,
thinking
to do,
about that, it like never kind
Right.
of clicked or registered. So
Right,
I was like, okay. So then I got the number of the advisor at Columbus State for exercise science, which is Don Lobenthal. Shout out if you're watching. I don't know.
Fantastic.
He's a Columbus guy. Goes to old school, but I sat down with him 2 hours later after chit chatting with him. Had all my classes signed up for the next semester and everything, and kind of hit the ground rolling from there. I ended up dropping out for a year. That's another story for another day.
Sure.
But took a year off, and that really kind of recentered me, got me back to lifting, exercise science. This is what I want to do. Took all the classes and everything, and it's just been kind of it was a hobby that turned into I can do this for a living.
Well, and for those that don't know, from that point on up until now, you've been in some aspect of the fitness, lifting, making yourself feel better industry.
Correct. Yeah, that's. I got a job at a gym shortly after that. I worked the front desk there, which when you think of like the front desk gym guy, you walk past and he's just there. You don't really think like, you don't really think like what's going on with that guy, what's he doing here. But I was that guy at one point, and like a lot of my job there was soaking it all in and kind of listening to the owners of the gym and listening to the trainers and kind of
you're absorbing, taking notes,
yes,
mental notes,
right. And I'm trying to kind of figure out like, is this what I want to do? Eventually, I got an internship at a high school. And that was incredible. That opened my eyes to a lot. That really taught me a lot. I got to work with a lot of great people.
What was the internship?
I was more or less a low totem pole assistant for the strength and conditioning program. I worked under
for high school?
For a high school, yes.
Okay,
I worked at it was Upper Arlington High School. And Upper Arlington High School, if for those of you not in the Columbus area, is like if you've ever been to that. Have you ever been around
Never been
there?
in the school, no, I have
So
not.
the school itself, like the whole campus, is probably the size of like a Division III college. It's huge,
Massive.
They
A lot of
have.
money there.
I think they have. We counted it up one time. They have 35 total athletics.
Wow.
That's from club all the way up to varsity athletics. So I got to work with a lot of different teams. I got to work a lot with actually rowing, which in my mind as a 19-year-old kid, I was like, who rows? And it like starts to kind of click that like, holy shit, this is real. Like
people that want scholarships at very smart schools are on crew.
Exactly.
I'll tell you that right now.
Ivy League schools excel really well.
My niece was doing that at Columbus Academy, and I was like, "Why?" I was talking to my sister-in-law, and she's like, "She's going to be my scholarship."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't think about it, but then like the more you kind of dive into it, you're like, "Oh, these kids, they go places." So then my internship ends there. I continued to take classes. I worked my way through, got my associates, got a couple certifications, then ended up transferring to Capital University, which
Great
is
school.
just in Bexley. Love it. And then through my cousin's husband, he was the president of the boosters at Olentangy Liberty High School, which is another Columbus high school. Great at sports.
So you're networking throughout the high schools at this point.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so he gets me in with the athletic director. I meet the athletic director, get on there as a intern at first because I was finishing up school. Eventually, they asked me to stay on as an assistant until I found something after I graduated.
Sure.
So I worked, I say intern then assistant, but from the jump it was just a very like hit the ground rolling, and I was basically an assistant. And the day that actually hit me that like this is real, this is what I'm doing, was we had 4 different strength coaches including myself, and the 3 above me could not be there. So my boss, who was the head strength coach, he was like, "Hey, do you mind running this?" And we're talking from a 2 o'clock period to about a 5 o'clock period. So about a 3-hour period, I'm going to see about 250 athletes. And I was like, whew, like, how the hell am I going to pull this off? Like, I literally...
Yeah, it just became a job at that point.
Yes, yeah. In my head, I'm like, holy shit, like, I'm going to have to run this. Like, this is me now. So...
Now, not to jump the gun, but if I remember right, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is during the time you decided you were going to go into powerlifting. Or is this slightly before?
It was around the same time.
It was around.
It all kind of fell into the same.
So for those that don't
arena.
know, Caleb actually did compete in powerlifting for a short stint, and so now he's balancing this, which I didn't even know about, with powerlifting and trying to stay with his goals.
Yeah.
I ended up doing 2 meets total, but the whole competition process took about a year.
Okay.
So we can dive into that a little more later, but so then I have to like in my head I'm like trying to grasp this whole situation of like this guy's trusting me with all of his athletes, and I'm kind of thinking it as what has he seen out of me? And then I'm like, that was fight or flight mode for me. I can't let them down. I can't,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
screw
you want
this
to do
up.
well, right?
Right. So go in the next day. Everything went smooth, went off without a hitch. Nothing went wrong. Continued the assistant job, and then eventually got a head coaching job out at Watkins Memorial, which is where I'm at now. And I had that kind of same holy shit moment when I started out there, because I was like, this is my program. There's no head coach, assistant coach, PT telling me, like, here's what you need to do, here's how you need to do it. I was like, okay, time to put everything that I just learned in the last 4 years and apply it and actually do it. And so that was a huge kind of step-up moment. And to kind of bring it into your consistency is key. The thing that I found early on was I have to be consistent every single day as a coach. And the one thing you don't want to be as a coach is inconsistent. So if
when you say inconsistent, are you talking about like showing up, being there? Are you talking about expectations? Are you talking about attitude? Are you talking about everything?
A little bit, all of it.
Okay.
So if I show up and for 2 weeks straight, I'm the energy of the room and I'm bringing the energy and I'm like, let's go, guys, like blah, 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 whatever. And then all of a sudden I have a week where I'm just like, hey, guys, how you doing?
Right.
Like, no kid is going to respect that. Like, because these kids, like, I don't know if anybody has high schoolers or knows high schoolers. They're smarter than you think. Because they see
most kids, by
most
the way.
kids.
Yeah.
Okay.
Most
all right. Yeah. So,
or they at least think they are.
yes, yeah. So they remember these things and they know these things because, like, even now, like, kids will bring something up to me that I said a year and a half ago when I started, and I'm like, holy shit, how do you remember that? Like, I can't even remember what day it is half the time, So it's
Well, you made an impact.
right. So it's trying to kind of stay consistent in my coaching, stay consistent in my energy, stay consistent in my actual programming when it gets down to like the science of it and how I'm doing things and why I'm doing things.
And to add another twist into it, the high school that you're at is a pretty big high school. I just found out today when Mosley and I were in the gym together that not only is he in charge of the footballs, the basketballs, the baseballs, but he just broke to me that he's also training rugby players. I didn't even know they had rugby in high school.
Which club
Back in my day, it
rugby's
was
become
club.
huge. Yeah,
Yeah, it was club.
Ours is club. There's not really a big kind of thing for rugby at the high school, like varsity level.
It's mostly clubs, and multiple schools will do like clubs together.
Right, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I know that there's a couple areas around Columbus where they take like that have like 3 or 4 high schools and they put them all in one club together. But yeah, that's
Same thing with lacrosse.
Yep, lacrosse is huge for club.
Well, so I mean, I think the opportunity that we have with you being here is it's obviously. I think I love the fact that you brought up that with the job aspect of it. You went from in a short period of time a student not knowing what the hell you wanted to do, and then all of a sudden you kind of figured it out, and then you went from doing internship, being the guy that was like filling in, like like whatever they need from me, I'm going to do, and all this stuff, and then they actually needed you to do what they do, and you're like. It was a aha, holy shit moment.
Yeah.
And then that has cascaded into where you're at now.
Right.
I like what you said about being consistent, being there, doing all that stuff. Your expectations, your energy. When you said the energy, I thought that was interesting and impactful that people actually feed off of that. And when they're looking to you as a coach,
Right.
That's what they're expecting.
Right.
And that's, I think, any job is that when you go into it, whatever it might be, is that any of the issues you have at home, if you're not sleeping well, if you're not having a good day or period with your relationship or even your health or whatever, like if you're struggling, when you walk in the gym, you walk into those students or your employees or coworkers, you're who you need to be.
Right.
There's a consistency factor, and I think that's something when we talk about the fitness thing, but anytime you're doing the new year, like the new year, new me, new you, whatever it is that that's the problem with it, is that you may have this similar resolution or goal every year.
Right.
Well, I didn't do it as well as I should have last year, so now I'm going to do it. And it's like that's the thing, is that your New Year's resolutions hopefully are different.
Right.
Or your goals are consistently growing.
Right.
Because you're doing the consistency part. It's not just like I'm going to hit it hard, real hard for whatever it is, and fitness is an easy one, or health and in general is going to be an easy one. It's like I'm going to hit it real hard. I'm going to get to that point.
Yeah.
and you start real hard, you just go full blow into it, and then you burn yourself out, or you find, like you have a couple days off, and it's hard to get back in the gym.
Right.
It's hard to get that consistency mentality as far as going in. I had a bad day at work. Well, tomorrow I'm just going to kind of coast a little bit and all that stuff. So there's a lot there. But with you coaching young people, I think that's something that can be applied to people of all ages. Is they have you. Like you said, they're smarter than you think. They also rebel more than most.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're expecting them to have a consistency when it comes to what you're specializing in,
Right.
what do you see as some of the bigger issues as far as getting people motivated on a regular basis? Not just the ones that are out of shape, not just the ones that are, and you can include that, but that are like kind of like head cases and the attitude and all that stuff. But I mean, you probably have some success stories so far.
Got a couple.
But I mean, what's the key that you find, that what's the advice that you give to these kids that like, hey, this is the goal,
Right.
this is where we're going, so that like not only like this season or to start the season, but you're a sophomore this year, so it's this is what our goal is for your sophomore year, and then junior and senior and so on, and getting you ready to get to that level of, because life's going to keep coming.
Yeah.
Where are we going to get to? Not just, hey, it's a short-term goal. I need to get in better shape.
So for me, the biggest thing that I found like success with is you have a lot of kids that either don't get it or they get it and they're not doing it, kind of deal.
Okay.
So it's kind of, for me, what I try to do as much as possible is stay in touch with these kids, get on base with these kids, try and figure out what are they going through, always checking in, like the little things of like, we had a baseball player who he started throwing again and his arm immediately got jacked. Like just because, over and over and over, like super repetitive, like the same motion over and over. You can relate because you're a baseball player. Like,
I was
you
going
get
to
back
say,
in your season.
For those that don't know, kind of going in with that, a arm is not designed, your body is not designed to throw overhead consistently at, 70, 80, 90 miles per hour. And so that wear and tear absolutely takes a toll. If you talk to any Major League Baseball player or anything like that,
Absolutely.
I have no doubt that they have a professional masseuse. They have people that run the what's the electric shock therapy. You know what I'm talking about.
Electric
though.
shock therapy.
It's called
Yeah,
STEM.
sure.
Some people call it Russian STEM.
STEM,
It's where they
thank you.
They send electric
Yes,
current through your muscles.
and so I definitely understand what you mean in the fact that like his arm immediately got jacked up, and I'm sure he's now coming to you like, what am I supposed to do now if I can't throw? Like the whole idea behind that is being able to throw.
Right.
And so, then tying it back into consistency is key. How do you get him to stay the course for what you have designed?
So at that point, to my original point, it's kind of bringing that up, like just continually checking in at least once a week, just making sure like, hey, I know that you have this elbow issue or this forearm issue. Like, you don't have to say like, hey, you have this forearm issue, what's going on? It's just kind of like, hey, how's your elbow doing, or how's your arm doing? So the consistency part comes with, we got to back them off a little bit. We got to give them a few corrective exercises. We got to give them a few kind of things to snap them back into where they were before, so that they can still hit the ground rolling and get moving on where we are at in the training.
So with that, the overall scheme of it, whether it be, consistent in fitness or health or, progressing in your job or whatever it may be, you would then say, based off your experience, correct me if I'm wrong, that you need a solid group to essentially keep you in check, and you are that person or that group that keeps all these athletes in check.
I'm one of those pieces. So we have athletic trainers at the school. We have PTs that we can send these kids to. We have registered dietitians we can send the kids to, nutritionists.
Jesus,
we have.
And that's high school.
It's full service these days. It's so I am.
Must be nice.
Yeah,
I wish I had all that.
Same
now.
But I'm one part of that full circle, and if I can kind of steer them towards the direction they need to go. So like if there's certain things where like, okay, maybe his triceps just not strong. And okay, then for him, every workout we're going to do a little bit of this to strengthen that up. And then for other things, it's like, okay, maybe you need to go see the athletic trainer, or maybe you need to go see RPT, or maybe you got a little something going on with your diet that's not quite there, which is every high schooler ever. They eat like absolute dog shit.
You're saying
Well, that's most people, though.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
just high school kids.
Right,
I mean,
right.
the high school kids and like the children, I mean, younger ages.
Right.
I mean, you guys are both in your 20s. I mean, you know, you talk to people that are in the 30s, 40s, and so on.
Right.
It's even more so. The fact that you see it more when you're older.
I relate it to the high school level just because that's what I'm around.
No,
all
I know,
day,
but
and
it's just, I mean, I'm
correct.
trying to relate it back to a lot of our
Right,
listeners.
right,
you know
right,
what I
yeah.
mean? Like, so it's the same thing. It's just as you get older, you eat like shit, you see it faster. You feel it faster.
More Taco Bell.
More Taco Bell. Shannon's rubbing his belly there.
Shannon loves the breakfast Taco Bell.
So let me ask you this, though. I mean, like, so you can apply this if you were like a personal trainer somewhere, you know, the things that you've learned. And so I think it's interesting because I'm listening to all this stuff. And one of the things when I look at even like pro athletes and stuff like that, or college athletes, maybe it's because of fantasy football. Maybe it's because we watch more closely
Right.
that there's a lot more injuries. There's a lot more. I don't know if it's people are going harder. I am of the personal belief that when you talk about consistency is the key, it is like what you're talking about. It's the full picture.
Right.
You know, it's when you're younger, some of the kids that you're dealing with, they don't have to make sure that they are hitting all the levels as far as nutrition because they're just fucking young and strong and
Yeah.
you know what I mean. They're but as you get older, you know, you start into this. That's one of the things that I think deters people sometimes from any New Year's resolution, you know, or any goal is that they hit hurdles. Injuries is a very, very practical example of that. Or any other goal that you have when you're trying to be consistent, all of a sudden you hit that hurdle.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times it's because you may not have the full scope. You may not have the full picture, that you might be neglecting something going into it. So, I mean, I think that's something that you can really take from that. And I don't know if AJ, you have anything that you can relate that to. But, I mean, it's something that with what you're talking about, Mosley, is that these kids get injured. But you talk about like their triceps need more development. You know what I mean? Their joints, I mean, the things that they're lifting, when people are trying to get into it at any age, whether it's New Year's or so I'm going to start Monday, and they get in there and they're like, hey, I'm starting to see some progress, but I'm sore. Or it's like, hey, I'm starting to get past the soreness, and now my elbow hurts, and now this hurts, and all that stuff. It's because there's a lot more to it than just going to the gym or getting a little bit more sleep. Those are very important, but that's where the nutrition comes in.
Yes. So
that's when the supplementation, that's when the learning side of like stretching comes in.
Right.
Which I assume with kids, a lot of times they're not stretching at all because I know that I don't stretch enough.
Right.
I don't either.
Adults don't stretch enough.
That's something I
mean,
try to implement as much as possible is that mobility, that stretching piece, that one little bit that I didn't have when I was that age, which wasn't that long ago. So it's fresh in my mind that, you know, when I was 16, 17, 18, there wasn't a chance that, I just had a 3-hour practice and a 1-hour film session. I'm not going to my house and stretching. I'm going to take a shower, eat some Chipotle, and go to bed. Like that's
that's
my
best
headspace.
case scenario that
Yes.
you're eating Chipotle. Most of the time, if you were like me, which I know you were a fat kid at heart, it's
Still am.
a bag of Totinos or is it Totino's pizza roll?
rolls,
Yeah, not the chips, not Tostitos. Totino's pizza rolls.
That was my
You wash
Or
it.
maybe mom makes
Yeah.
chicken, mashed potatoes, and asparagus, and fuck asparagus, and mashed potatoes aren't my thing. So you're eating a breast of chicken, and then you're going to go do homework for 3 hours.
And then
you're
you
gonna go
wash
to
it
bed.
down with Oreos and milk.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that's not where you want to be at.
Right.
And, you know, I think tying in with the consistency aspect is then having to check in. You know, you had mentioned a lot of the listeners are, you know, in an older age group. Maybe they have kids.
Well, obviously older than high school. But
Right.
yeah.
You know, those
Hopefully.
that do have kids, check in with them. Maybe they need to go see a doctor because you want to hit it, you want to catch it when Mosley catches it, where it's just a soreness before it gets to what I ended up with, which was an L4, L5 vertebrae fracture. I'll never forget. I was 8th grade going into freshman year, and my dad had asked the doctor, is this rare? And the doctor responds to him, this is my 5th kid this week with this injury. And, it's just overworking it and not staying consistent with checking in, go to the doctor, things
Not
like that.
Hamstrings enough
And
either.
and it's not just the
Tell you that
kids. It's it's you as an individual in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, you have to be consistent with, if you have a dietitian, check in with them. If you have a trainer, check in with them. Let them know what's actually going on.
Keep educating yourself. Shannon says, when getting back into fitness routine as we get older, I think a lot of the injuries come from going too hard too fast. You have to leave the ego at the door and listen to your body, and I think that's a big part of it. Listen to your body. Educate yourself. I had a guy in the gym last weekend, and he didn't look way out of shape, but he didn't. He's obviously getting back into it. And I was doing incline dumbbell flies,
Okay.
and right next to him, he was on he was doing shoulder presses or whatever, and he kind of got my attention, in the mirror, and I took my headphone down. I was like, "Hey, just out of curiosity, can I ask you a question?" I said, "Yeah, of course." No idea what he's going to ask me. It's
Right.
gym. They can be all over
Yeah,
the
it could
board.
be. There's a lot.
Yeah, so he was just like, "Hey, is that working your chest or your back?" And I was like, "Oh, it works your upper chest and get the contract." He's like, "Oh, I appreciate that."
Yeah.
Obviously he's early on in his
Right.
fitness journey again, probably at this point in his life. Nate, what'd you have?
Well, one of the things that I remember from my days working out in the high school gym that I get from you as well, Mosley, is you have a passion for
Absolutely.
the strength and conditioning. Not everyone that comes in there shares that same passion. And that is one of the reasons why I think they lack in the consistency. How do you try and transfer, and teach them consistency to kind of have the passion for it that you do?
So and I was going to kind of bring this up with even in my everyday experience at the gym or at home or with my parents or whoever, the biggest number one thing you will hear is, well, I worked out for 2 weeks, but I was too sore to go back for 3. That is probably the number one excuse I get from my athletes specifically and from the people that I talk to, because the second you tell somebody you're a strength and conditioning coach or that you're in exercise science, what do I do to not be fat anymore?
What's the magic pill?
Exactly. They want that right away. So
Stretch, eat, or do 5 sets of not eating shit?
exactly.
Takes too long. Takes too long.
What I try to kind of convey to people is that's normal. Everybody that has ever been, that has exercised or gone through that happens. And I exercised for 2 weeks, but 3 weeks was going to be too much because I was already too sore. That will go away over time. Even if you do the same exact workout for the next 2 years straight, you're going to get used to it. The soreness will go away, and getting used to it is not the best terminology because there's a lot of other science behind that and stuff that goes into it. But it's getting back in it, staying in it, and staying on it. Back to the consistency piece is if you show up for the next 3 weeks and you're sore for those 3 weeks, come back for 4. Trust me. And that's what I try to do with a lot of people is just say, hey, you're going to get sore. It's going to suck. It's not going to feel good. But I promise you, even if you go 3 days a week for the next 3 weeks and week 4, you only go 1 day.
Yeah.
Do it. Just do it, because the second you get in there and you get through it and you get through that little soreness patch, you're going to be fine coming out the other end.
Soreness is different than being injured.
Absolutely.
Or hurt.
Right.
Absolutely.
I tweaked my back a week or so ago. And I was doing really light squats, and it was one of those things that I felt it twinge, and I felt it before where I was immobile before, in my past. So I came back up, and I was like, all right. So I just started doing leg press a little bit easy and all that stuff. It hurt for about a week. I still
the blood
went
flowing
in
through there, yeah.
But I was hurt. I wasn't injured.
Yes.
I was hurt, and it
Right.
wasn't soreness. The soreness is different.
There's the best way I can explain it is if your forearm hurts because you did grip work or a forearm curl.
Yeah, try moving furniture.
Yeah, your forearm is not broken.
Can I
Go ahead.
say
Yeah,
it's,
absolutely.
the two trains of thought, right? So when people get back into the whole fitness journey or whatever, or they're like, oh, I'm gonna this is the year I'm gonna lose weight or whatever and all that stuff. There's one thing that I always try to remind people because I had a very successful weight loss about now it's been 6-7 years ago where I lost 50 pounds in 9 months.
You
That's
killed
awesome.
it.
I killed it. And
Yeah.
it was
That's
calorie
awesome.
deficiency. I tried to educate myself. I was already whatever. But it's that brings up the point of, when you figure out how long it took you to get to the point you are now, at least factor in that amount of time. And I'm not saying like gradually over the last like 10 years. It's not going to take you 10 years. But if you got to that point, it's not going to happen overnight. Everyone knows that.
Right.
But depending on how you handle it, what you're doing, what you educate yourself with, whether you have a strength and conditioning coach, whether you have a personal trainer, whether you do your own research, it's going to take time.
Right.
And that's where I kind of put it into the other side of it. Someone like, I've been working out and everything like that, and I'm really sore, so I'm going to take a few weeks off. If you had the same goddamn mentality of when you overeat and you fucking wake up the next morning,
you're
sore
preaching to
in a
the
different
choir
way.
right now.
You're on the shitter. And you feel like hell. You're dragging the next day because you ate. How many wings you ate? 20 wings tonight, AJ?
Oh, so good.
Yeah, it's so good. You're going to feel it fucking at like 3 a.m. this morning.
No,
It's the same thing. If you're drinking whiskey and all of a sudden, like the next day, you're like, oh, man, I feel like hell. Are you taking 3 weeks off of that?
Right.
No, you're going to say like a freshman in college, like, I'm never drinking again.
Yeah.
And then the next like 2 nights later,
And
you're
then
going to be like,
Tuesday
hammered
rolls
again.
around,
You're-
you
you're
shoot shots
the
of
same
tequila, and
mentality.
you're going.
Your buddy Steve shows up and says, hey, I got this new bottle. You should try it. And, all right, let's do it.
Yeah. Use that. I can go all day with this. You can use that same mentality, like, oh, I'm sore and all that stuff, and your buddy Steve comes in, hey, let's go to the gym, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
Use that same mentality. I'm just saying, like, when you eat, you overeat. Like, I used to eat like a fucking bag of Tostitos and cheese dip, at night, and I feel like
Totinos.
hell.
Why not? It tastes good.
Tostito chips.
I thought you dipped the
We would do
pizza
the
rolls
party
in the
pack.
cheese.
Oh, that's amazing. But we used to do that in college. But you would feel like hell after eating.
Right.
When you overeat, you go to
Your
a buffet
heart's
or whatever,
heavy.
and you're just like,
Absolutely.
I feel like crap. The next day, your body is craving calories, and you're like, all right, well, I'll just, one more time's not going to hurt.
Not
And that
right.
turns into like
One more
6
time
years.
always turns into.
Now you're on the couch.
Now it turns into 6 years,
Yep.
and you are caught up on Survivor, and you know
Right.
exactly what's going on in the series Lost.
See, that's and like
That was-
Not
that
it
was a
happened
good
to me.
series,
Not
though.
that it happened to me. This is another guy I know, all right?
It's like even the big thing for me, like in my own like experience, is coming from the powerlifting background. Is the weeks that I felt best were the weeks that I stretched, the weeks that
Yeah.
I did my mobility and actually sat down and I drank a gallon of water that day and I got my aminos in and I got my protein in and I ate the right food and then I sat down and did mobility for an hour and I'm like, holy shit, waking up on Monday like I'm a fucking new guy here. Like this is awesome.
Doing what you should have already been doing
Exactly.
had you
Yes.
been consistent.
Yes, so
And that's
it's
the full picture, though, too.
yes, and there's the little bits and pieces that are missing. It's like building that puzzle, but missing that one last piece. And oftentimes, because consistency's not there, that falls into that last piece right there. Because you're not stretching as much as you should. You're not going to the gym as much as you should.
But you need to know that stuff. You need to educate yourself with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And
There's that age-old thing where, and I had this happen to me when I was losing weight. It was like, and maybe you guys have heard this before, but it's like, at first they're going to ask you why you're doing it, and then they're going to ask you how you did that. That exact same thing happened to me.
Right.
I was, it was funny. You start losing weight, right? You have some success with some of this stuff, and you have your friends or people around you like, hey, you lost weight? Like, yeah, what are you doing? And at the time, I'll tell you, it wasn't like the best thing. It wasn't the worst thing. I was basically,
Right.
I would go to the gym in the morning. I have a protein shake or two, before and after. And then I would stop at Subway and get a foot-long chicken breast sub on wheat, no cheese, spinach, tomato, some barbecue sauce, whatever I eat. 6-inch sub for breakfast, brunch time, about 10 o'clock in the morning.
He's got it by memory. How long has it been since you've been in
About
that?
6 years.
But you were
7 years. Yeah, because it was one of those things where I was like, all right, so I eat that, and then about 3-4 hours later, I eat the other half of the sub, microwave it, and then I'd have a couple chicken breasts, or I'd have like Chipotle or whatever,
Right,
and then that transitioned into eating half a bowl from Chipotle,
right.
certain way, and doing that. So I would eat like 3, 4, 5 times a day, but it was like smaller portions.
Right.
Not everyone has the capability of doing it, but it was interesting because I would get asked the question like. When I'd order like 2 chicken breasts or something like that at a restaurant,
Right.
like Fido, I
Yeah.
have a button on the menu now called Steve Crane that is 2 grilled chicken breasts. And I don't even order it as much as other people order it now. But, people were asking me, like, is that all you're eating? Like, why are you doing that? And I was like, oh, I'm just trying to lose weight. And then, like, I did lose weight.
Right.
And they're like, well, how'd you do it? And I would tell them all that stuff. And I kid you not, they're like, that's not healthy. And most of the time they would say that. There's people that were asking me for advice on how
Right.
I did it. And like, Subway's not good for you. It's all bullshit. Like, it's not real chicken. And I was like...
It works.
I'm just telling you
It's
what
a
I
start,
did.
and it's the consistency piece that you're speaking on is you
And I
did
did it
if you do that every day for 6 months, you're gonna lose 10 pounds.
Yeah.
And like whether or not the science backs it or whatever goes into it, all that I can go on all day about that. I won't. It's boring, but you're
That's why
gonna.
you're on the podcast.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's fair. That's fair. But
I don't want to bother anyone with this information, but
But you're gonna lose that weight because you're on a routine, and whether you know it or not, your body gets used to that stuff.
Yeah.
It gets used to the same old. So like when I was in college, I was a college kid. My buddy hit me up on a Tuesday. Hey, let's go to this bar. Let's go do this. All right, let's go rip shots. Fuck it. And then my body gets used to that every Tuesday, every Thursday,
Called
every
tolerance.
Saturday. Yes. Yes, exactly.
I have some of that.
So every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, I'm going out and doing that with my buddies, and my body gets used to that. Well, my body also gets used to waking up Wednesday morning, Friday morning, Sunday morning, Monday morning to go into the gym and lift hungover.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't healthy, but that's just how my body reacted to it. That's how everybody's body reacts to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and kind of tying it back into what you're saying, I think it helps those people that then ask you how you do it, no matter what their response is. That helps you stay consistent as well. So I know for me, I've always been the skinny guy in the room. I'm still the skinny guy in the room in my eyes.
Yeah, in this room.
In this room, yeah. But like for example, I just my brother got me a Christmas gift. It didn't fit. Went into Buckle to exchange it, and I actually got helped by a high schooler, and he was asking me, "What supplements are you using?
Yeah.
What are you doing?" And I'm like, I'm not in any position to try to tell you. Like, I don't feel like I've made anything.
Everyone's coming from a different perspective,
and,
though.
But
So you may be more well versed than that kid.
Yeah.
So
that
was he
and
skinny?
I was 150
No, was
pounds.
he?
Oh
The high
no,
schooler.
he still had some muscle mass on him.
But he's looking to get bigger, so he's looking at you like that. And then it's like bigger people that are looking at you like you're lean and you're skinnier. And they're asking you from the different perspective.
Yeah, and I mean, I will never claim to, know anything about the fitness or the supplement industry as law or anything like that, but I will give any sort of help that I can along the way. But I mean, I don't feel like I've accomplished anything. I'm not where I want to be at, you know what I mean? So what gives me the right to tell that person what I'm doing?
Have you made strides? Have you made progress?
Yeah, and
that's it. That's it right there.
And
that's the big part of it.
And I'll say it. I did it yesterday. Was when that kid talked to me and things like that. And I went in today, and fortunately, Mosley was there. Pushed out a new squat PR that
415.
that I still need to work on. You know what I mean? I'm not
amazing.
anywhere near where I
touch
want to
that.
be, but the consistent aspect of their, what was that you said with they ask you how you did it?
No,
they
ask
say
you
why
you're
first.
doing it, and then they'll ask you how you did it.
Right, and
If
I
you've had
think
success with
and
it.
I think as you start going on your journey, that consistency then gets not necessarily easier, but it shows a little bit more because you're going to get other people that are asking you, like you with the guy in the gym.
Yeah, and everyone hates New Year's resolutions of the gym, and there's a big part of it I don't like, but that's the time I feel in the best shape because
You take a look around and you're like,
Because
oh,
you
shit.
were consistent.
not only that, but it's like depending on where I'm at year to year, and as I'm getting older, it's not as whatever. Like you get older, things change and it's harder and all that stuff, but. I get more questions in January and February at the gym. I get my headphones, like, hey, you can pull it out, you know what I mean?
Right.
I remember it was like a year or two ago, some guy was like, how long you been bodybuilding? I was like, yeah, I'm just
I don't know what that is.
I was like, I'm trying not to get older. Like, I think I had like a tighter T-shirt on that day or something like that. But no, I like that, and I think it's about the journey of it, and I feel that people will have some progress, but it's not as quick, or they get that soreness.
Everybody wants the magic pill. Just exactly what he was saying is everybody wants to, they look at the people that are the most fit in the gym and they think like, oh shit, they just started lifting.
Genetics,
with
man.
me.
It's got to be genetics.
Okay. So they get into like, they look at the most fit person in the gym and they think, what are they doing that I'm not doing? So then they'll come up and ask you, well, I started lifting when I was 14, and it was for sports, and then I didn't really ever take it seriously until after I graduated high school, and so it's consistently staying in the gym all the time. It's over time. Now, that sounds really cocky, like saying like I'm one of the more fit guys in the gym, but there's some truth to it. Where
trust me, man, there's plenty of people that I saw in not only gym. So I'm at Lifetime Fitness here at Easton in the Columbus area. There's Lifetime Fitnesses everywhere, and I was leery about going over there because I went to a gym called Power Shack, which was not like old school where you go or went or anything like that. But it was one of those things that you see in every gym. You see those people that are there as often or more than you are, and they're doing the same thing.
Right.
And they look the exact same.
Right.
There's something to that there's a maintenance side of it. I doubt that's mostly their goal.
Right.
If you look at a lot of the people like that. And same thing with people that are always reading like self-help books, or self-improvement books.
Right.
And then you ask them like, so what are you doing now? Oh, same thing.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? Why are you reading these things? I mean,
Right.
Are you doing it to maintain? And sometimes that's a good thing.
Yeah,
you know what
absolutely.
I mean? It's better than digressing.
Right.
If those people weren't in the gym doing the elliptical on slow mode and doing it for the whole time that I was in the gym, and then like I see them a year later and they're still like that. That's why I couldn't be a personal trainer, because there are people that it's like as soon as, and I know like plenty of personal trainers that are friends, present and past, that they had clients that they put them through a workout, and it's like 6 months, 12 months later, they're still at those beginner stages because they can't push them, because as soon as they leave the gym, they're not doing the full picture.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes back
they train
to that.
3 days a week. So that's 3 hours out of
Right.
how many hours a week, and the
Right.
rest of it they're doing the other
and
part of it.
that's the other thing that's kind of the other, I guess you could say, ugly side. It's not really ugly, but it could be the ugly side of consistency is, okay, well, I'm lifting 3 days a week, but why am I not losing weight? Every day
because
is a
you
week.
go smash a bag
Yeah,
of Totinos
exactly. So,
as
like,
soon as you get out of the gym.
Just because you're consistent with your workouts and you're consistent with that Big Mac doesn't
No, that's actually the key.
completely.
They
It
offset.
doesn't
So-
come together.
So the results are that's where it comes from, right?
Yeah.
Consistency is key. I mean, we're talking about like the pros of it. We're talking about
Absolutely.
the nutrition, the working out, and everything else, the New Year's resolutions. But the consistency is the key on any negative.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So if you're doing that and you want to get in shape, you have to, again, educate yourself. You want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the goal is, you want to educate yourself on what the steps are. But if you have something that you're shooting for, and again, this is a good conversation because it's easy, and I encourage everyone listening to take this and try to apply it, or comment or message us on another aspect of life that you want to actually try to have a conversation on the podcast episodes about, because we can do that with different guests.
Absolutely.
But this is something that if you have something that is a fault or a negative or something that's holding you back, and you're consistently still doing that on top of or in the background of these new things,
Right.
you will not see the results.
Well, that's
the consistency. Again, I keep bringing it back to the full picture,
Absolutely.
because consistency is key for the good things, which is what everyone probably thought this conversation was going to be about, myself a bit included. But as we're talking, I'm thinking about those downfalls, those weaknesses. If you continue down that path, if you're consistent in eating the Big Macs, you're consistent in hitting the drive-through, if you're consistent in getting home after a long day of work and just like going downstairs and watching TV and like going down in your man cave,
Take a nap.
doing what, taking a nap,
Yeah.
but it's a consistent thing, and you're not doing the active part of it, or you're not actively trying to better yourself, whatever the goal is, then you're going to have struggles getting to that goal.
Right.
You have to cut out the negative consistencies, in my opinion.
No, and that's absolutely right, because it's like you can consistently be good at one thing, but if you're consistently bad at 90% of the other things, it's not all going to come together. As cliche as it gets, there is the saying. I think it was, I don't even know who said it originally, but it was
Aristotle, I think it was.
So, yeah, exactly.
John Aristotle.
Doing the same things over and over again with the same results and getting no positives out of it, which I'm butchering that quote, but that's the quote, is doing the same thing over and over again and not getting the results is psychopathy or some shit like that.
So it's if you continue doing the same things and expecting different results,
right.
That's the definition of stupidity. It's the definition of whatever you want to put on that. Insanity.
Yeah,
that's
okay. Insanity is the word.
I've heard it on
for.
both, but if you continue doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results, then I've heard stupid, I've heard insane, I've heard whatever it is. But whatever it is, it's fucking frustrating.
Right.
Yeah.
If you go up to
it's unrealistic.
Let's say you go up to a whiteboard, or you walk into this garage every single day and you write 2 + 2 = 5, or 2 + 2 = 3 on that wall
It's
every
that
single day.
Common Core math.
Yes, yeah, that's the one I'm really good at.
That's a different subject.
But if you walk into this garage and you write that on the wall every single day, and then you walk in here and you look across the wall and all you see is 2 + 2 = 3, 2 + 2 = 5, but you're not seeing 2 + 2 = 4 anywhere on that wall, you're going to get the same result. Because you keep writing it that way, because you keep doing it that way, you're not getting the answer because you're not doing it right. And that's a very simple way to put that, and that's a very big, broad thing
example.
put down into
nice
one
example.
Yeah, you're gonna get that result every single time because you keep doing it that way.
And to kind of tie everything into the overall life aspect, how you had said this goes for everything. Just another example. Me personally, I'm trying to save more money. And I know that if I'm consistently stopping and getting a bag of chips and a Monster before work, no money's going to get saved doing that. If I'm stopping at the gas station daily or every other day or whatever, that's $6-7. Or if I decide I'm going to eat, if I'm going to buy lunch every day rather than pack lunch every day, I'm consistently spending money, which is going completely against the goal that I had already set out for myself. And that's one thing that I personally am going through.
It's when you get to finances, there's a lot of things. Like one thing that I can relate to is there were several years, post-divorce especially, that I was going to the bars more, and that was my social group, going to the cigar shop more.
Makes you feel good.
So, it's what I was doing. And so at one point I was making more money, and so I didn't really think about it. Now, I wasn't really saving a whole lot, but it was like I was making more money, so it never really affected me. But it was like it's any of those decisions, right? With that being said, AJ, with packing lunch, that's a really good example. It's the same thing. If you go out several days a week and you meet people at bars, and I want to do meetups with people, you know what I mean? But it's like within moderation, hopefully. But if you have a bar tab, 3, 4, 5 times a week,
absolutely, that adds
as opposed
up quick.
to if you want to have, like, if you truly, and people are different, right? So sometimes they only get like beers or whiskey when they're out and about and they're adding up. And when they go home, they don't drink at all. But then there's people that if you cracked a bottle of TX blended whiskey, and now if you're killing a fifth every night, there's other issues. But I'm saying
go see someone.
We got other things to talk about.
$26 for $26, and you have a fifth of whiskey or whatever, and you come home, you have a couple glasses like you would at the bar. But you do it. There's different reasons you do it, social aspect. But again, you have to reframe your life. That's the full picture again, where it's like, all right, so instead of going out, and it's baby steps sometimes. Instead of going out, 5 days a week. I'm not even talking about getting drunk. I'm saying like, all right, I'm gonna go out 2 days a week, and the other 3 days that I normally am like having a drink or whatever, or smoking a cigar, I'm gonna go home and relax.
And I'll take it back to a class that I had. It was human physiology. Had one of the worst teachers that I've ever experienced in my entire life.
No shout out to them.
No, he's but
kind of just did.
We were about 6, 7, 8 weeks into the semester, and I'm sitting there like, I don't know shit. And it was in my head, for the 6, 7, 8 weeks, I put it on the teacher. I was like, this is such a terrible teacher. I'm going to fail this class because he's such a bad teacher. Well, then I thought about it for a second. I was like, what am I doing outside of this class to study, to make it better, to teach myself? And go back to people that have trouble losing weight, they can't educate themselves on it. That's what I had to do. I had to go in, and I was like, well, if the teacher's not going to teach me, then I'm going to teach me. I grabbed the book, I sat down, and 3-4 hours a night for the next 2 weeks, I learned everything I possibly could, and ended up coming back, passing the class with flying colors.
Yeah.
And it was just like, that moment right there kind of clicked with me, and it was more than just I'm consistently going to this class, consistently listening to the terrible lecture, consistently listening to this teacher, take it in my own hands, be consistent on my own front, be consistent in, okay, if now that I'm caught up, can I take the 1 hour a night to study the flashcards, study the tests, study the stuff that we've gone over, the lecture notes that are posted? Can I go other places to look at how to educate my own self?
I think that goes into a little bit of last week's podcast, actually, is taking responsibility of a new year. And we went into that a little bit because that's becoming, and I thought about it. I went back and listened to last week's podcast, and one of the things that I can relate to is occupation, relationship, and then also fitness and everything else. And you go to the school, that's a great example, is that when you're in that situation, you can take that, you can put that professor as your boss or your job. You can put that professor in the role of your significant other at the time, and you can be a victim of the situation.
Right.
And you're putting so much reliance on that other outside factor, and you're just along for the ride. And what you did, when I like that, for me, it's very powerful because it was a good way of. That's a good example that I probably will use sometime in the future when I'm talking to people. Is
Absolutely.
that when you're in that situation, you can either just fail that class. You know, you go through it and you're like, yeah, it's bullshit. You know, the professor sucked, and you know, I didn't learn anything from him. I was in every class. I was listening. I was writing down notes, and then when it came to the test, I didn't really learn anything, so I didn't really succeed.
Right.
Same thing. I was in a relationship for a while, and I just kind of rolled with it, and you don't take responsibility for your role in that situation in life. You play the role of the victim. And same thing with a job. You know, I was in a job for 5 years too long, and I didn't really like it, and I just kind of went with it. My boss is an asshole. The company's expectations are constantly changing, and I don't really like what's going on here. And it's like, and I go to work the next day.
You don't do anything about
it. You
it.
have to
just,
do what you did. You crack the book. You know, you educate yourself. You go and do your part of it. Not always. Like personal training is the same way. Your kids, or if you go in, you're going into the gym, you're trying to work out and all that stuff. That's the point, is that you can't just go in and expect a personal trainer to transform your body. You're the one doing the work.
Right. It's not like you're going to go in.
It's not just the hour that you're in there that you're paying them ungodly amounts of money to fucking tell you how to work out.
Right.
Remember that stuff. If anytime that you go into like a personal trainer, you try to absorb that. You try to take action in that role. And you want to. My goal, if I went to a personal trainer, and I tell people that a lot, if you go to a personal trainer, make it temporary.
Yeah.
You know, so that you learn what you need to know in a matter of however many months. And if you need to go to a personal trainer, you can afford it, and it helps you have motivation. You don't have a gym buddy, whatever, that's fine. But otherwise, learn what you need to know, and also learn what you have to do outside of the gym, and save yourself some money, and then learn from it and grow from it, and then expand on your own.
So it's interesting that you kind of bring that up, because that's kind of a point that I'm at right now. Is my background has always been powerlifting. When I originally took lifting seriously, I got into bodybuilding a little bit.
Yeah.
Realized that bodybuilding wasn't probably going to be my avenue, but I kind of rode that for a little bit. Got into powerlifting, and powerlifting was like a big staple in my life. It's how I lifted for football and baseball growing up and everything. And then now I'm working with a guy at our gym that he's teaching me how to Olympic lift, which Olympic lifting, the main difference between like powerlifting is the powerlifting is like the three main lifts that you have, like squat, bench, deadlift. Yeah. And then Olympic lifting is what you see on TV. It's what you see at the Olympics with the squat, the snatch and the jerk.
Yeah.
Right?
Different movements.
It's very different from what I'm used to and what I've gotten into in the past. So I kind of started doing my own thing, started kind of trying to work in certain things on my own to kind of build that up. And then eventually the trainer at our gym, he comes up to me and he's like, well, try this, try this. So then it got to the point where I was like, this guy knows what he's talking about. I don't.
Yeah.
Let's see what he knows. And I've been working with him for the past 4 months now, I think. And I'm learning these lifts and trying to kind of educate myself on those things. And I'm trying to stay consistent with it. And then eventually I will get to a point where I'll go off on my own. And he understands that. He knows that.
It's a good goal.
But it's a learning curve that I'm trying to kind of bridge right now.
Nate, what do you got?
One of the things I wanted to bring up before you guys got to closing remarks, when you guys are talking about consistency, one of the words that keeps popping up into my head that I think is tied very closely to consistency, almost maybe a synonym, would be discipline. Is to have
Very
the
much related,
discipline to do those things and to do them repeatedly.
Right.
So
Go ahead. Yeah.
kind of with that, with what Mosley had said earlier, as far as, the consistency is key puzzle, I think a big thing that we've kind of walked around right now is, guys, you got to take personal responsibility. You can't blame the teacher. You can't blame the trainer. You can't blame your dietitian. You're the one that's going out and doing the actual acts themselves. Mm-hmm. And so ultimately, if you have a bad trainer, it's on you to find a better one. If you have a bad dietitian, it's on you to find a better one. If you have a bad teacher or professor, it's on you to, if you can't get a better one,
get it done yourself.
Yeah.
Or supplement that.
Yeah, exactly. Educate yourself on it. And so I just wanted to add that as, another piece to the puzzle is responsibility for yourself. You've got to be able to call yourself out on it, which is a very, very difficult thing to do.
Well, I mean, it goes into the fact that when you go into these situations, and again, we frame this conversation a bit to the new year, new you. You're a week into the new year, and you're getting to that point where when we frame it with the whole strength and conditioning or the fitness or the weight loss or whatever it is, it's a bettering of yourself, no matter what it is, no matter what the situation is you're absolutely right. There is a sense of responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But a lot of people go into that, and for what you're saying, AJ, when you're in class and you're 3 weeks into the semester or whatever it is, different.
Right.
When it comes to a job, there's a lot of factors there. You got a paycheck, you got to pay your bills, you got responsibilities there. So it's like you can't just be like, fuck this, I'm out.
Right.
You know what I mean? But you can educate yourself and figure out what you want to do. And so when you get off work, you don't just go to the bar. You don't just go home. You don't fall asleep. You just don't. You start looking for something else. You start figuring out what would make you happy. There's the responsibility. There's the action on yourself. Same thing with relationships. If you're in a situation whether you've been with them for a month or 5 years or 10 years, you have to. It's not always bailing on it. It's literally like different arenas of life require different action, but taking responsibility for it and moving forward with what you want to do.
Right.
Now you have to learn. Now you have to figure out what you want. You can't just sit back and let it happen to you. Mm-hmm. You can't just let that personal trainer say, hey, I need you to do this, this, and this, and you go through a 1 hour workout, and then you just leave there and you go back to your normal life. It's like, that's not what we're talking about here.
Yeah, and that was something big, was like with getting a head strength and conditioning job was kind of, it was a learning curve for myself because I'd always been in the assistant role. I'd always had another strength coach or somebody to kind of say like, hey, you need to do this or this or this. Yeah. So it made me step up more to like, I can't just walk in there every day and throw a workout on the board and here we go, kids. That's it. I still have to
do it.
Right. I still have to learn. I still have to I have to change the programming up as I learn more.
Yeah.
And school got me so far, and I am still learning and still keeping up with the everyday stuff and still trying to read the journals, read the articles. I'm always trying to find new things that I can pass on to my athletes because at the end of the day, as a strength coach, I'm not just a strength coach. It's not just making a workout, putting it on a board, and here we go, kids. That's it. There's an education piece to it.
I love that.
It's trying to get these kids to understand why they're actually doing what they do. Because when I was in high school, the workout on the board was, go do 5 sets of squats, do 3 sets of biceps, 3 sets of triceps, and then whatever time you have left, do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah,
that's not it.
P.S. Don't hurt yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it.
And we had no idea why we were doing those exercises.
Not a single clue. It was just like, that's my coach. He's telling me to do it. I'm not going to question it. I'm just going to put my head down and do it. And so that's kind of, from my background, I'm like, I don't want my kids to come in here and just be like, oh, Coach Mosley said do this. No, fuck that. Like, come in here. Here's what you're going to do. If you have questions, come talk to me. If your parents have questions, come talk to me.
Yeah.
If your friends have questions, come talk to me. I want them to know why they're doing it, the reasons they're doing it.
That's it right there.
How they have to do it, and everything has a rhyme or reason to it So if you have questions on that, I'm going to explain it to you as best I can, but don't be afraid to ask me more.
Yeah, I think you actually hit a very, very important part, and I think this is a good time to get into the closing remarks, as Nate said, is that
Absolutely.
you hit the why.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you seek advice, no matter what it is, and again, in all intents and purposes, you know, with this conversation, it's, you know, if you're seeking betterment of your overall health or fitness or lose weight, whatever your goals are, you know, going into it, again, being a week into the new year. I mean, this is what, the 7th, you know, so you're literally a week into it. The New Year's Day was last Whiskey Wednesday where we had a podcast.
Right.
And we talked about responsibility in the new year. That's the transition into this whole thing, is that whether you ask what your why is, if you're in a leadership role and people are coming to you and asking. I've had a couple of people actually texting me that are people in my network or friends and all that stuff, and they're asking me because now they're getting into it again. You know, they're asking, like, they're thinking in their mind, like, who do I know that has done what I want to do, whether it be lose weight or stay consistent or whatever it is. And I'm getting texts. My former roommate texted me, and he's got, you know, a family now, you know, and when I knew him, he was just out of college. And he's asking me questions about, like, my macros and all this stuff. He's like, hey, you track these? Like, hey, what do you do? Like, how much cardio do you do? And I'm telling him all this. I'm telling him what I did to lose weight. And you know, it comes out to the why.
Right.
You know, it's not just, hey, this is what you do. Because with everyone, it's different. Your results are going to be different based on different things, based on who you are mentally, physically, and more. But that why is really important. Mm-hmm. That's the education there. It's not just what to do; it's why you're doing it, and then what makes it better.
Right. And oftentimes that education part will lead into the consistency, because it's like, if you have an athlete or a person or a client that comes into it and is like, they do these workouts and everything, they go through it, and that's it. If they know why, they are more likely to get back into it and keep going and keep on.
Stick with it.
They're more likely to stick with it if they know why they're doing it, versus if they just come in and see the workout and this is it. It
goes back to that when people ask you when you're doing it.
Right.
Why are you doing it? And then they're going to ask you how you did it. That's it right there.
Yes.
Sean in our audience here, he's been a past guest on the show. What do you got?
Great guy.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, AJ. Yeah. I like you, AJ. I like your hat. I mentioned it in the comments, but one thing that I've kind of been guilty of doing, I see it a lot now, is a lot of the get fit quick things. P90X.
Magic pill.
Yeah, P90X is the pills, the whole nine. And I think that in today's society with social media and all these stories and these people who are like, you know, they share these people that lose weight in 3 months, and people, you know, buy into that and spend a countless amount of money, and it's a lot of money. And I think that the big thing is just it's slow and steady wins the race.
Right.
It's not this, you know, do this incredible painful workout every day for 90 days and kill yourself. And, you know, you can see all the stories you want, but those people all have different body makeups, and so it's whatever's best for you, whatever works for you. I struggle with it every year. Talking to Steve in the past, or in the past few weeks, just even discussing that, it's the one thing is not going balls out the minute you get in the gym. Start lifting, you know, starting to lift, you know, heavy right off the bat. It's more of a, I don't know. I'm just walking my dogs right now, you know, and just getting outside and walking.
Which that's exercise.
Yeah, it's moving.
People don't think about it, but it is.
And they pull me, so it's also weight resistance.
Depending on what size dogs you have.
Yeah. So anyway, I just want to put that out there too. It's a lot of it's, you know, just slow and steady wins a race, and I think that's part of the consistency with that people forget about. It's not 90 days and you're done. And even if you go all the 90
that's
days,
a big point.
You know, even if you go 90 days, great. What are you going to do after that? You're going to quit? You're going to give up and be like, that's it?
I know a lot of people that have gone through that P90X phase where they do the P90X. Oh, well, I hit my 90. I'm done now. I'm good to go.
What do I do?
Yeah.
So P90X is one of those things, and then AJ, I want you to hit the closing remarks here.
Cool.
P90X is it's a great program, but
Absolutely.
it's no secret. That's a personal trainer on DVD or whatever it is now. But it's one of those things is that P90X is that the whole point is that what do you do in P90X? You work out 5-6 days a week. You eat better.
Right.
No shit, you get in better shape. It's
all
not a
workouts
secret.
alone.
It's like no, you're just doing it. So it's like, but that's not like I'm good for the next 10 years, and that's. That's one of those things that it's like, you start the program over.
It's a process,
or you go
man.
to, and if they do it, but I mean, P91.
That's perfect.
Like,
No,
they're looking through it like, where's
Seriously.
disc 8? Like, shit, I finished disc 7. Like, what do I do now? It's like,
Right.
fucking start it over, man.
Yeah. And
So,
if you have another avenue to go towards, go for it. But
Yeah.
So, closing remarks, the gist of the topic itself was obviously consistency is key. The whiskey was great. The cigar was amazing. What I took away from this actually ties into the earlier part of part 2, which is, find a group that is going to hold you accountable, that's going to help you stay consistent. I'll reach out to Steve or I'll reach out to Mosley if I have a question or if I'm starting to get off track, or I'll reach out to Isaac, my trainer, like, hey, something's going awry, and to line me back up. And then the other piece of that is listen to those people that you had mentioned. They're going to ask you why, and then they're going to ask you how.
Yeah.
Even those people that, like you said, all of a sudden they're like, oh, that's not healthy. You can't do
Oh,
that,
it's
blah, blah,
amazing.
blah.
It's amazing.
If it's not healthy but it's working, why are you asking me for advice?
Yeah.
And then getting upset when I tell you, listen, there's no magic pill, man. I've just been busting my ass for the last, so many months or so many years. And so that's my 2 closing remarks is find that group that's going to force you to stay consistent and force you to level up in your own life. And then also take a look at the deeper meaning behind those people that ask you why and then ask you how you're doing it.
Yeah.
So that's my closing piece.
It's amazing.
Mosley, what you got for us? What'd you take away?
It's New Year, New Me is a good saying with a certain leash on it. It's good to have that New Year, New Me kind of focus, but it's also take this time to refocus those goals. Like, let's say the last year you set 3 goals total.
Yeah.
And you got 2 of them within 6 months. Okay, what'd you do the next 6 months? And what have you done since? Okay, maybe refocus that 3rd goal that you didn't hit and refocus those first 2 goals and just clean slate. And the New Year, New Me kind of persona that people kind of hit on a lot, it has its good and bad sides, but take the time, take the chance that you're getting to actually do it this time around.
Yeah, I mean, so it's not a one and done type of
Right.
thing, right? So
Right.
all right, so I think everyone in this garage drives a car, right? Drives their own car, right? So one of the things that really shocked me, right? So my dad owned a 1979 Lincoln Town car. He bought that car before I was born. And
Really?
I drove it in. I was born in '80. I'm not that old.
Gray.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of gray. Fucking happens.
You're a dick.
So it always shocked me that car lasted as long as it did. I drove that thing in high school, you know what I mean? And he didn't really, like, in the middle stages of owning it, I'd probably say the early 90s. I don't really remember him talking about taking it in for oil changes.
It just kind of happened. New tires just kind of happened.
New tires happened when they popped or they were on the tread. And that's actually the metaphor that I'm using here, is that if you own a car and you want it to last, you don't change the oil at the first 3,000 miles or the first 6,000 miles, and you're like, well, we're good.
Yeah.
Fucking good. I did it. It's fine. Got new tires. Gonna have this car for 10 years. Good. No, and a lot of times when you're doing like you take it into the garage, take it in a dealer, and they're like, hey, you're at the 60,000 mile mark. We need to do all this preventative maintenance. You're like, do we?
No, you're right on though, and I know where you're going.
I don't have
with
any
this.
problems right now. So I think you're just trying to scam me for money. No thanks. I'll see you when I need another oil change.
Right,
or,
right.
I need to get new tires. Like, do you rotate them? Yeah, they're good, but you only have like 10,000 miles left. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right,
We'll see
they
about
look fine
that.
to me. It's okay. And I think that's a good method. They're still around, and it's riding fine now. I'm good. And I think that's what people do a lot of times with some of their goals is like, no, I got the job.
Right.
You know, I went to the gym. I'm good.
And they coast.
Then they coast.
Yeah.
Until your fucking back tire blows out.
And you're
your
on
hamstring's
71.
gone, and you're just like, well, I don't know what fucking happened. I changed the tires like 5 years ago. It's fine. You know, I changed the oil. Now the engine's seizing. It's like, when's the last time you changed your oil? It's like,
2007.
I don't know. What year is it now? Yeah, what year is it now?
So we're all laughing, but what Steve is saying, the metaphor that he's getting out is 100% accurate.
Yeah.
You know, you're not. Let's say you get a new car, or let's say you're on one that you've been on for a while. You're like you said, you're not just waiting. You get the oil change once, and you're good for the rest of the year. It doesn't work like that. It's a process.
It takes constant maintenance. Mm-hmm. It takes constant attention and care and monitoring certain things. And I think a car is one of those things. House is the same way. Mm-hmm. No matter what it is that there's a certain life to it. And so when you have the goals, when you have the situations you want to get, and we're talking about fitness a lot, you're talking about health a lot tonight, whether it be same thing with a relationship. It's like, I bought her flowers once
6 years ago.
How long you guys been together? 6 years. When'd you buy her flowers? Well, it was our first Valentine's Day, and we had been dating since November, so it was good. It's good. When was the last time you guys had date night?
What's that?
We were in college, and I'm 39 now, so it's just the point is that you have to stay on track all the time. Carry the one. Sadly, it's been that many years since I was in college. But no, it's constant attention. It's the consistency is key. These are the things
absolutely.
that we're talking about. Is that we pay more attention to other things in our life, like things that we hold to be prized possessions, mind you, and yet we neglect what we're doing.
Yeah.
And a lot of times those prized possessions actually deflect the attention.
Right.
And so I encourage everyone to treat themselves and the people in their lives and the issues in their lives as the true prized possessions, and to continue to grow. And when things aren't working out, you need to sell the car because it's becoming more problems than it's worth. Mm-hmm. That could be a job. That could be an unhealthy relationship. It could be unhealthy habits. These are the things that you need to actually make a change and truly then learn from the mistakes that you did. Like, I didn't change the oil for 50,000 miles. Well, the next car is you don't go 50,000 miles. You're like, what am I supposed to do? Okay, here, change the oil. Here's the money. Let's do whatever you need to do because I don't want to get a new car.
Right.
I don't want to get a new job. I don't want to get a new girlfriend or wife, or I don't want to get, I don't want to gain 50, 60, 70 pounds.
Right.
I need to change the oil sometimes.
Right.
And I think that's where I'm going to leave it. So, guys, thank you very much. I want to thank our sponsors, Tinderbox at Easton, for the La Aroma de Cuba, Amor Reserva for part one. That was fantastic. Next week, we're going to have another great cigar from them, which we appreciate. That's going to be 15% off until next Tuesday night of close. If you call us or get a hold of us on Wednesday morning, we can squeeze you in as well for a shipment, or if you stop in the shop, we can do that. The Romeo y Julieta is from Altadis USA, and I've enjoyed that actually more when I had the TX blended. Mm-hmm. Dustin, you were on point on that, as I think that was a better pairing. Keep it light with that pairing. So thank you, Altadis USA. I'm hoping to get Josh Bentley from Altadis on the podcast next week. He's checking with his schedule to be on with Shannon Chapman. Excuse me. So thank you very much for the support there. And then also the BS Cigar Company. I've got a couple silvers here. I might light one of those up here in a little bit here. Try not to have it a late night again on Wednesday night. Sometimes they happen. And also the Patreon page, patreon.com, Bourbon and BS Podcast, or patreon.com/Bourbon BS Podcast. That's where you find our information. You can contribute to the podcast, support us with very, very small amounts of money, or if you want to donate $1 million a month, we can accept that as well. I just need to talk to my accountant on that. But thank you guys very much. Happy Whiskey Wednesday. Nate, am I forgetting anything? Good? Thank you guys very much. Cheers.
Cheers.
We'll see you next week.